Call the council meeting to order tonight. We'll call the roll, please.
Council members Anderson.
Here.
Benega. Brown.
Here.
Costello.
Here.
Jamison.
Here.
Knutson. Here. Litz.
Here.
Staggers.
Present.
We have a quorum present tonight for tonight's meeting. Tonight will be led in the invocation by Pastor Wade Mobley from Living Word Free Lutheran Church here in Sioux Falls. After the invocation, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this time, I'd ask everyone to please rise.
I'm always appreciative of our civil servants, tonight especially so, as I'm guessing there's a few that are missing a football game that they're concerned about right now. So thank you for your sacrifice for the sake of our city. I'd like to read from Romans 13. Let every person be in subjection to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. Most of the rest of the chapter goes on to talk about the duty of government. But the only point I'd like to make today is that today you're not here just to do city work. You're here to do God's work because all authority is established by God. And so we pray for that work today. Father God, we thank you for today. We thank you, Lord, for this time together. We thank you for this city and those who are giving of their lives and their time to protect and provide for the common good. And we ask, Lord, that this meeting would be a good one. That you would keep comments on focus, that you would give a servant's heart to all those who are here today. We pray for wisdom where it is needed, Lord, and we ask that you would just make this a time that is glorifying to you and encouraging to everyone here. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a proclamation, Sandy Parham, from Helpline on Suicide Prevention Week here. Glad to have you here tonight. And it reads, whereas in the United States, one person dies by suicide every 16 minutes, and it is estimated that 5 million people in the United States are survivors of the suicide of a loved one. Whereas the most recent statistics show that there were 125 suicide deaths in South Dakota in the year 2006. Whereas suicide is now the 9th leading cause of all deaths in the state of South Dakota, and the 2nd leading cause of death among people from the age of 15 to 34 in South Dakota. Whereas the stigma associated with mental illness works against suicide prevention by discouraging persons at risk for suicide from seeking life-saving help, and further traumatizes those people who lose a loved one to suicide. Whereas the South Dakota Strategy for Suicide Prevention represents an important starting point for the prevention of suicide attempts, and its efforts should be supported and encouraged to the maximum extent possible. Whereas the Helpline Center in Sioux Falls is the only crisis line in South Dakota that is accredited by the American Association of Suicidology and is dedicated to reducing the frequency of suicide attempts and deaths and the pain of survivors affected by suicides of loved ones through their suicide prevention, intervention, and aftercare efforts. Whereas it has been acknowledged that suicide is a major health problem and support must be given for education programs, research projects, and intervention services. Now, therefore, I, Dave Munson, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim September 7th through September 13th, 2008 as Suicide Prevention Week in Sioux Falls. And Ms. Ellen Kingsley for the Disabled American Veterans Forget-Me-Not Days. There we are. Thank you for coming tonight. We have a proclamation that reads, whereas our community has a continuing sense of gratitude to those disabled veterans who did so much to preserve the American way of life, and whereas the Disabled American Veterans, DAV, has worked exclusively for the welfare of our disabled veterans and their families, and whereas the Disabled American Veterans Chapter Number 1 has been established to carry on this work in our community, and whereas the DAV offers free service to disabled veterans and their families in filing claims for government benefits and assists disabled veterans with medical, employment, and other problems, and whereas the DAV meets emergency situations which may arise in the family of a disabled veteran, and whereas the DAV has chosen September 11th through September 13th, 2008, for its annual Forget Me Not campaign in our community, and has announced that all funds collected will be used for disabled veterans in the community. Now, therefore, I, Dave Munson, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim September 11th through September 13th, 2008, as Disabled American Veterans Forget Me Not Days in Sioux Falls, and urge the support of all citizens and organizations for those days. Okay, we'll get started here with the first item of business. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move Knutson.
Knutson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further motions, further comments on that? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, will vote yes. Those approved, no.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
All members present have voted. The consent agenda has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. We move now to the approval of the regular agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to approve, Brown.
Brown moves. Is there a second?
Second, Jameson.
Jamison seconded. Further motions, comments on the approval of the regular agenda? I see none, so all in favor of that motion to approve will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
All members present have voted. The regular agenda has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Now is the time that we set aside a period of 5 minutes, and we just ask anybody that wishes to address the council for a period of 5 minutes to give their name and their address. So at this time, anyone wishing to address the council, please come forward. Your name and address, please.
My name is Andreen Strickers. I live at 5321 West Pritchard Drive here in Sioux Falls. And I'm here to talk to you about the sales tax increase. I'm opposed to it. And every day we hear more in the news about the recession nationally. And we're all faced with increases in prices on food, gas, heating, and a lot of other things. Here in Sioux Falls, some of the fees are going up in January. And in light of this, it just seems unconscionable to me to increase the sales tax and to increase the budget by 14%. Seems like there have to be some other ways to pay for the roads, the new roads. And, I mean, like in a family, you know, like maybe you want something extra, like, say, I've thought about getting a big screen TV. I actually could afford it, but there's more important things than that. And people that don't have money for even the basic needs have to scrimp even more. On the roads, I've read and I've been here at meetings where I understand the developers are going to cover a lot of the cost. It sounds like about 62% of the cost of the arterials and stuff, and the sales tax increase is supposed to cover the rest of that. I would imagine the developers are going to pass those costs on to the people buying the homes and businesses. Is that not right? I think in a lot of cities, it's kind of taken for granted that the people buying the homes have to pay for those extra things, as the city expands. And that brings me, I'm sure you all read the article in yesterday's paper about the tax increase. And somebody mentioned that he was of the opinion that over half of the people in Sioux Falls really want the city to grow. I grew up here. I was born and raised here. I moved elsewhere. I lived in Dallas and Baltimore because of my job. I speak Spanish, and when I got out of high school and college, there weren't a lot of jobs in Sioux Falls for Spanish-speaking people. So I used my Spanish in my job. Sioux Falls was about 65,000 when I left. I was shocked at how big it had gotten when I came back. I moved back here because I don't want to be in a big city. 150,000 is just plenty big as far as I'm concerned. And I realize, yeah, we do want to grow, but I don't think that is the critical thing right now is taking care of the people who are here. And I know some of you still probably are for the sales tax increase. I'd like to challenge you to try the food stamp challenge. Some of us did this last year, and we lived for a week. The only food we could have was, we had $21 to spend on food. And you couldn't use any food that was in your home, except maybe salt and pepper. Even other spices you couldn't. The reason you could use those was because you could pick free packets of salt and pepper up different places. But I tried it, and it's real tough. If you tried that for a week, I think maybe you would really realize how pennies make a difference to a lot of people. Luckily, we're not in that boat. But anyway, I'd really like you to reject the sales tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Come down. Appreciate it. Others that wish to address the council for 5 minutes and give your name and address, please. Anyone else wish to address the council, please come forward at this time.
My name's Chris Vonderleith. I live at 1116 North Spring Avenue. My issue is I received a couple of tickets for weed and grass removal, and I was not in the home. I was ordered to get out of it.
Excuse, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You're on the docket. You got one tonight. You're going to be coming up. We have those issues tonight, I think. Do we have that, Dwayne?
Number 6.
I think it's the first one here, 1116, is that right?
Yeah, and is that, let's see, what item is that? Is that 5 or 6?
It's item 6, Mayor.
Yeah, so if you want to just wait till then, and then we'll give you a chance to address the council at that time, if you would.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming down. Others that wish to address the council on public input for a period of 5 minutes, we just ask for your name and your address. Anyone wish to address the council, come forward at this time. Okay. One more, okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, citizens of Sioux Falls. My name is Mark Shalanta. I'm a resident of Sioux Falls, and I live at 612 East 61st Street here in town. I'm here this evening to speak to you as the chairman of the Sioux Falls Development Foundation, the CEO of SDN Communications, and a citizen of Sioux Falls. First, as the chairman of the Sioux Falls Development Foundation, I'd like to address the plan agreed to by the city that will match every dollar spent on arterial streets and arterial street infrastructure with another $1.50 from private developers like the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. Visitors and citizens will be asked to contribute an additional 8 cents in sales tax on every $100 they spend in our community. As I understand the plan, this will generate just over $4 million in 2009, growing to just under $5 million in 5 years. At the same time, local developers will be asked to pay new fees that will contribute just over $6 million in 2009, growing past $8 million in 5 years. As a community that grows by 3,000 to 5,000 citizens every year, we need to ensure that our arterial infrastructure is able to grow with and stay ahead of the development that is needed by our current businesses that are expanding, new businesses developing in Sioux Falls, and new citizens as they seek affordable housing and good jobs in our community. Hopefully all citizens recognize that it's most cost-effective to have arterial infrastructure developed at the same pace of the commercial, industrial, and residential demands of our community. I encourage all councilors to support this plan and expand the funding for the growth of our community. Second, as CEO of SDN Communications, I applaud the efforts of this administration to seek input from many sources on the best uses and potential placements for an event center or coliseum. Though we have options like the arena and Howard Wood Field that meet our needs today, these 40-year-old pieces of infrastructure are not and were not designed to carry the load forever. Today, Sioux Falls is a town of roughly 151,000 citizens. However, in 20 to 25 years, we will be a community pushing 300,000, or nearly twice our current size. During this transition, we will certainly outgrow our current venues. Long term, we should be investing our funds into newer and properly sized venues rather than continuing to pump millions of dollars every 5 years or so into maintenance and minimal improvements. Your strategic thinking to determine the best use and location of a new combined venue needs to be recognized today for what future administrations will be thankful to have, that being a well-defined plan that was born from citizen input. Infrastructure like event centers or a coliseum are also key amenities when attracting and retaining a quality workforce. As someone who runs a local business, attracting and retaining top-notch staff is at times a challenge as a younger workforce seeks more entertainment options for their free time. An event center or coliseum will be one of those items that catches and maintains their attention over the long haul. Third, as a citizen of Sioux Falls, I hope your administration and this council, along with future administrations and councils, will continue to recognize the huge asset that we have in our park system. Sioux Falls is host to many statewide and regional sporting events. The parks and their associated venues are worth millions of dollars in taxes from people visiting our city. We need to continue the growth and development of parks and green space in our community. One area which can benefit Sioux Falls in many ways is the redevelopment of the green and brown space along the river and downtown into more commercial, industrial, and park space. We are constantly building new commercial and industrial areas at the edge of town. Being able to redevelop certain areas of downtown will allow us to take advantage of existing infrastructure and expand walking, biking, and recreational space along the river. That combination can create big wins for the community in many areas. I urge this administration and council to continue to examine ways and work with developers to diversify the uses and develop more of the riverfront into a river walk. In closing, I ask the council and the citizens to, first, please support the arterial development plan and its proposed funding mechanisms. 2, keep in mind that we must be planning today for the replacement of older assets that are undersized to meet the needs of the city in the future. And 3, that many citizens are in favor of continued development of parks and green space. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council, for your time, this opportunity for input, and your consideration of my remarks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes.
Yes, Mark, I just have a quick question. You know, I think I know everybody on the council is in favor of Sioux Falls continuing to move forward and develop and so forth. But how would you respond to adding new taxes, like on developers, the developer fees and so forth, that's probably going to be passed on to new home buyers, and therefore we're going to raise the cost of new housing in Sioux Falls? And that's something I think probably most of us on the council would say, no, that's not a good thing. That's going to hurt the development of Sioux Falls.
Well, I think that long-term failure to promote and grow the arterial infrastructure, whether that be streets, sewers, water lines, et cetera, having those, I'll say, arterial infrastructure elements not keep pace with the growing demands of the city will hurt the city even more over time. And that I also believe and have seen studies that show that by postponing or delaying those types of arterial infrastructure development that actually costs the community more dollars, I'll say 5 to 10 years later, after you have more people and businesses in place, you have disruption to businesses, disruption to families as they work in their commutes. As someone who lives, I'll say, along 57th Street today, my commute is, and the businesses along there are impacted by that arterial development. So, and I just wish that we could have done that sooner.
I guess also, too, I mean, I don't think there's anybody on the council that's not in favor of more arterial streets. What it boils down to is how we're going to finance this. And back in August, we had a test vote, and 4 of us felt, hey, we could take a look at our budget that we have right now and get the money to do this, at least when it comes to the sales tax. So I guess what I would say is that, hey, there's not just one way to do arterial streets. In fact, we had a very creative idea to do it another way. And what would you think about trying to do the arterial streets without maybe having to raise the sales tax? Or
well, if there are ways to accomplish arterial street development and other arterial developments, I'm all in favor of those. I would just indicate that the plans that I've seen, the demands on the city, we are, I'll say, all in unison as a business and development community, that I'll say the packages that have been put together to examine the fee structures and the taxes will meet our funding needs. And I'm all in favor of the continuation of that arterial street development. It would, I guess, I would say I'm here as part of the Development Foundation endorsing the plan recommended to the council by the administration.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Others that wish to address the council for a period of 5 minutes, name and address.
Mayor, Council, George Hahn. I am a real estate broker, Millennium 3 Real Estate, 100 South Spring here in Sioux Falls. I have been for 25 years. We have a unique opportunity, those 8 of you who are here who are capable of voting tonight, that is to stay progressive, to keep moving ahead. Right now, the lack of arterial streets is quite literally driving people to build homes in new subdivisions in T, Harrisburg, and Brandon. I know. The last 4 houses I sold were in T, Brandon, or Harrisburg. We're planning on closing a couple in Sioux Falls. We're closing twice as many in the nearby smaller communities who are more receptive to arterial streets than we are. That is crazy. We shouldn't be shipping our home buyers to nearby communities, other tax districts, other school districts. But we're worried about $8 on 10,000 for a grocery ticket. First of all, half of the sales taxes we generate come from outside of Minnehaha and Lincoln counties. They come from within South Dakota, Iowa, and Minnesota. The merchants that count license plates know this very, very good and well. Right now, we're short of lots for new affordable housing. And by that, I mean 150,000 and less. That's where the aggressive sales and marketing efforts are taking place, not only Sioux Falls, but around our entire area. We don't have enough arterial streets to get there. We don't have adequate sewer and water, and we're spending money like crazy rebuilding some of those that were well planned and have served the community for decades now. You talk about progressive taxation. We have all seen the video, I'm sure, A Tale of Two Cities, where Sioux City and Sioux Falls were the same size back in 1970. Sioux City has sat on its butt for 40 years and done nothing. Nothing. They are stagnant. They're losing population every year. The people that are coming in are those that are working at lower wage jobs that don't require a whole lot of infrastructure. Here, we're drawing 3,500 people a year into Sioux Falls. We have to give them a place to live. You have to have streets, roads, sewer, water, lighting to get to those places. If we don't keep expanding our tax base slowly and surely with progressive planning, as we've done for the last quarter of a century, the tax burden will be spread on an ever-increasing stagnant or smaller tax base than before. This $8 on 10,000 that the nonprofits are worried about, that some of the council are legitimately concerned about, isn't squat compared to the increase in taxes that will have to occur if we don't keep expanding slowly but surely, progressively, and expanding the base the physical operation base over which we spread our tax burden. That $8 will be nothing. And if taxes go up $25 a month on housing, through no fault of the home builders, the home buyers, or us realtors, or you, council and mayor, we will blow people right out of the water in qualifying for the first-time home buyer program. The qualifications are more arduous than they were a year ago. They're tougher than they were 6 months ago, and they're not likely to get any easier. $300 a year can make it or break it. So they go to T, and they go to Harrisburg, and they go to Brandon. They even go to Hartford and Baltic. We have to expand our tax base. We need to spread our existing expenses over more real estate. Now, if we don't, where are we going to start cutting? Fire, police, public safety, health, city hall staff, where are we going to start cutting? Where will it stop if we don't have a tax base which expands slowly but surely? We will be stagnant, and pretty soon we will start going backwards. We'll probably not become a Sioux City, but that's a scary proposition. Here tonight, the 8 of you that have a vote have a chance to keep pace with the progressive growth and the progressive taxation that we have had for the last 25 years. The development community is paying a huge portion of this. The platting fees will amount to another $344 to $350 per lot, regardless of the size of that lot or what the price is, and that will go toward defraying some of the costs that City Hall will incur. This $8 on $10,000 of household expenses is a lame excuse. It's 2 beers down at the Crow Bar, cheap beers. It's 1 martini at Minerva's. It's 1 take-home pizza. Certainly, we can all spare that in order to keep our taxation progressive and spreading over a great tax base. You ladies and gentlemen have an opportunity tonight to keep setting the tempo on a high pitch, or you can start dragging us down into a hole. We may not become Sioux City, but it's a darn scary proposition that we could start heading that way. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you.
Yes. If I could ask George a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
George, you know, I'm very concerned about neighboring communities growing fast, because that means we're not doing something right here in Sioux Falls. I mean, I want us to be more competitive than T, more competitive than Harrisburg. But what I've heard is one of the reasons why people are moving to T and Harrisburg is because the housing costs are becoming more expensive in Sioux Falls. Because, you know, we do have more regulations than probably T or Harrisburg does, so that's adding to the cost of housing. Now we're going to be having these development taxes, which is going to be adding to the cost of housing, and it'll be passed on to the new home buyer. So I guess that, you know, I'm like yourself, I'm very concerned about Sioux Falls continuing to grow, but I guess my perspective is that, yeah, we continue passing more taxes and more regulations. This is going to drive people out of here, going to T and Harrisburg. And I guess I have not heard that people are going there for arterial streets.
They are secondary choices in where to live. More people than not would rather live in Sioux Falls than they would in T or Harrisburg or Brandon. T is half a mile from Sioux Falls. Harrisburg is only a couple of miles at the extreme tips. The next high school that Brandon builds will be in the city limits of Sioux Falls, as the last 2 schools which Harrisburg has built have been. And this will continue. 45, 50 years ago, we blew it. We didn't take our school district south of the county line. We didn't think it would ever grow down there beyond the Foster Mansion on top of Minnesota Hill. Never going to happen. And we can't start adopting a professional posture that this will never occur again. We will be the housing opportunity of first choice as long as there are enough reasonably competitive builders, which we have, enough reasonably and competitively priced home lots, which we do not have. We're out of dirt. I was called earlier today to find a 4-plex lot in the southwest part of the city. I laughed at the guy. I said, "You're out of your mind. There aren't any." "Well, why not? We don't have streets." He said, "Well, why not?" I said, "Watch the city council meeting tonight. I'll try and educate a couple of people to the best of my ability." Sioux Falls is still the first choice. And there are a lot of housing opportunities that are townhouses, twin homes, that are 4, 6, 8-unit properties that sell for under $100,000. We have been very good at getting those zoned and properly annexed, but we're running out of lots. They're all built on, or they're being built on, and try to go sell one of the equity home condominiums in the southwest part of the city. Oh, we're out of them. And we can't build anymore until we get some more streets. Sioux Falls is the first choice. It will always be the first choice. We're the better community. We need to stay that way. And like I say, tonight we have an opportunity to start a stagnation process or keep moving ahead. Spread the tax base over a greater base, and we will keep our taxes low. If we stagnate, we will simply increase what we have to tax, which is the existing base. And then let's have the wars of what we cut. I don't want to be in on that. No, I'm too old for that.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
We'll be taking that up next Monday night. Others that wish to address the council for a period of 5 minutes, name and address. I see no one coming forward, so at this time we will move into the regular agenda. Item number 1.
Item number 1 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the release of a portion of the permanent utility easement in Lot 3A, Skunk Creek Addition in Section 25-10150, Minnehaha County.
Good evening, Chad Hebe with Engineering. This easement is located north of the Louise Avenue and Shirley Avenue intersection, or south of the Johnny Carino's restaurant. The city retained this easement when Jeannie Drive was vacated in 2004. Sayer Associates, on behalf of the property owner, has requested that this easement be released. The city no longer has a need for this easement, and Engineering supports the release.
Questions of Chad on item number 1. Others that wish to address the council on item number 1?
I just had one question here, Chad. You know, I know the access has always been a question under this property, and I know also that street is undergoing some real critical changes coming up. And will you be able to work with his access, the elevations on the access going into the lot and all that afterwards? Is there something, is that still flexible?
I guess I don't understand your question.
Is this the...
This isn't the, no, this isn't the street vacation. This is
Okay,
a release of a permanent utility easement.
Okay, I've got my wires crossed here then. Thanks, Chad.
Okay, further questions? Others that wish to address the council on item number 1? Council discussion or action?
I move for approval of item number 1, Knutson.
Knutson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Costello.
Costello seconds. Further comments on the motion to approve? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve item number 1, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
All members present have voted. 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 1 has been approved. Item 2.
Item number 2 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the release of a portion of the permanent drainage easement in Lot A, Starlight Estates, Second Edition, in Section 18-10149, Minnehaha County.
This easement is located on the east side of Elmwood Avenue between Burnside Street and 6th Street, or directly on the east side of the Starlight Estates Mobile Home Park. Portions of this easement were obtained in 1988 and 1997. Sayer Associates, on behalf of the property owner, has requested that a portion of this easement be released. Engineering has determined that we no longer have a need for this portion of the easement and support the release.
Questions of Chad on item number 2? Others that wish to address the council on item number 2? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Litz.
Litz moves. Is there a second?
Second, Jamison.
Jamison seconded. Further comments on that motion? I see none, so all in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item number 2 has been approved. 7 yes, 1 excused. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the release of permanent sanitary sewer easement.
This easement is located west of Cliff Avenue on approximately 77th Street. This easement was obtained from Diamond Valley LLP in 2005 to maintain a sanitary sewer pipe. Since then, the sewer pipe has been relocated into a different easement. Dunham Commercial Real Estate, on behalf of the property owner, has requested that this easement be released. The city no longer has a need for this easement and will be in support of the release.
Questions of Chad on item number 3? Not. Is there a motion to set the hearing date for Tuesday, October 14th for item number 3?
I so move Knutson.
Knutson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconds. Further comments on the motion to set the hearing date? for October 14th for item number 3. Seeing none, all in favor, set that hearing date. We'll vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
All members present voted 7 yes, 1 excused, and that hearing date has been set for October 14th for item number 3. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is deferred action, a resolution vacating Lot A, except that part lying south of a line extending east from the northeast corner of H3, extending to a point lying approximately 133.16 feet south of 57th Street, along the west edge of the old dirt road of Highway 115 extended, currently Sunnymead extended, in the northeast one-fourth of Section 10-150.
This unimproved right-of-way is south of 57th Street, east of Minnesota Avenue. The petitioner is Robert Visser. Mr. Visser plans to construct a small building east of his current building. At the public hearing on July 14th, this item was deferred because we did not have a preferred alternative for the reconstruction of 57th Street between Minnesota Avenue and Pembroke Avenue. After our preliminary design studies, we do now have a preferred alternative and have met individually with property owners who will be directly affected by this project. Feedback from these residents has been positive. A neighborhood meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 16th from 5:30 to 7:30 at Linwood Wesleyan Church to discuss the reconstruction of this portion of 57th Street. This figure right here shows the right-of-way that's being petitioned to be vacated. It's shaded in red. The item below that, the pink line, is the proposed 57th Street alignment, and the dashed line is the existing 57th Street alignment. On the west end, you can see there's approximately, the road will be lowered approximately 2 feet, and on the east end of this vacated right-of-way, the road will be raised approximately 3 feet. And it does fit nicely into the existing topography of that potentially vacated right-of-way. The petitioner has complied with our right-of-way vacation policy. If vacated, a utility easement will be maintained. I am requesting that this resolution be amended by adding the words construction, grading to the list of easements reserved by the city. This language would be placed before the word drainage in the 6th line of the last paragraph of the resolution. These additional easements will allow us to complete the necessary grading on this parcel during the street reconstruction.
Questions of Chad? Others that wish to address the council on item number 4? Go ahead, Pat.
Chad, you said that there'll be a neighborhood meeting on September 16th?
Yes.
And what will that be for?
We will be what we've done now is we've taken the preferred alternative to all the affected property owners that live directly in the areas where we'll be either lowering the road or raising the road.
You're talking about the entire street, not this project?
Yeah, I apologize.
Okay.
The public meeting is for the reconstruction of this portion of 57th Street. We've already had the neighborhood meeting for this vacation tonight.
When we deferred this back in, what was it, August?
July.
I'm just trying to, obviously there's a lot of neighbors that are going to be opposed to this, and they're probably never going to be happy. Did they have adequate notice that we were going to proceed tonight on this?
I attempted to contact one of the neighbors, and they, I believe, are out of town.
Further questions?
Chad, this is the one when I woke up here a little bit ago that
Yep.
I had my paper turned up. But, before we turned this down because of the street elevations and all that, now they're pretty well determined after quite a lengthy process, which it's a good deal over there. 57th Street's really going to be nice. But the access to this here now, I didn't understand before. It seemed like Mr. Visser, are you Mr. Visser, incidentally? When we talked before, they were talking about a access that was shared with the bank. I didn't understand that. Is this property going to be accessed from the property that Mr. Visser currently owns, or is there going to be another access? Are you moving the access to both properties, or what's to become of that?
I guess my response to that is we haven't seen any type of an engineering plan for Mr. Visser. on what he plans to do. I've seen a building rendering or a mock-up model of what he plans. When he, we're going to, if this is constructed in 2009, we'll finish our work in the fall of 2009. After that, Mr. Visser will come in, request that these easements we have be released, and then he can start his process. So we'll be reviewing his plans similar to what we do with every site plan, and we'll be looking at an individual access, or we may be looking at trying to combine the two access points. So he'll go through the typical process.
Okay, the reason I was asking is this street is kind of an anomaly. I mean, it's an old arterial. It's a four-lane like it is. It doesn't really fit into our new design standards, and I don't think you're going to try to change it too much. And I just didn't know where the access situation was going to remain, because I know he's not far enough back away from, well, he would be far enough back away from Minnesota Avenue
Absolutely.
to qualify as the corridor. Is that correct?
Well, I look at this as it's our new access standards are for, the new streets
style.
where we have nothing out there. If this wasn't Mr. Visiter's property, we would, they'd need an access just because of where it is.
So what you're telling me is this will just be determined on whatever you guys can come up with that works for everybody at the time when the building
Correct.
plan
And
goes in.
with us, regrading this street, the site distance will be greatly improved.
Very good. Thanks, Chad.
Further questions? Others who wish to address the council, come forward, name and address, please.
My name is Bob Visser, and I live at 1105 Plum Creek Road, just down the street from this office location. And I guess I'm just requesting that that Lot A be vacated over to us so that we can put it to good use and put it on the tax rolls. Thank you.
Questions about? Thank you very much. Others that wish to address the council on item number 4? That is their motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve item number 4 with the amendment, the 2 words added, construction, grading before the word drainage, that was presented to us a few moments ago.
Motion is to approve with the amendment. Is there a second?
Second, Costello.
Costello seconds. Further comments? Everybody knows that we got the proposed amendment with the motion to approve that just puts construction grading in there. Further comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the proposed motion as amended on item number 4, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item 4 has been approved. 7 yes, 1 excused, as amended. Item 5.
Before I read items 5, 6, and 7, I'd like the council to know that you have copies in front of you of the assessments for 5, 6, and 7. 7 has 3 sets. 1 is for litter, 1 is for tree trimming, and 1 is for snow. And these assessments are up to date as of noon on Wednesday of last week. So this is for your reference if people approach the council. Item number 5. Item number 5 is a resolution approving the special assessment roll for repair or demolition of real property in various areas in the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Hi, Ron Bell with Building Services. What you have in front of you is a series of about 9 different assessments on properties. These properties have all been issued notice and orders through our property maintenance code. The bulk of the reasons for the assessments is that these properties were left open and unsecured. We ended up having to issue a notice to secure the properties immediately. Most of them, there's been no contact based on the fact that the property owner has either went bankrupt or has dropped access or use of the properties, as is the case with the banks. So the majority here of these are paying the contractor to be able to secure the properties to keep children or other people from entering the properties. There's one down here for 2124 South Duluth. This is one that's already been demolished, and that amount is for asbestos field testing and also, again, securing the property itself. The last one is 618 West McClellan. We have the property owner here that probably want to speak with that. That was securing the property prior to him gaining the property.
Any questions?
Go ahead, Bob.
Ron, you know, I see on these addresses 29 or 209, 211, 213 on South Colville Avenue. I'm real familiar with those houses because I've been they're not too far from my house, and we're going to demolish those houses pretty soon. And I was wondering, you know, right now you've got an assessment of $318.41. Obviously, it's going to cost us a lot of money to tear the houses out. What happens to that? I mean, what becomes of that? Do we attach it to the lot and try to sell the lot? Or?
It'll be the same thing. It'll be brought in for assessments. All that you're seeing for these are simply securing the properties. 219 South Colville's on the list, 303 North Fairfax, 311 North Spring, 209 through 217 South Colville. We just, as a matter of fact, gained a couple more, 303 North Fairfax, and I can't remember the other address, where we have issued notices of demolition. And it gets to be quite a process because state law requires asbestos abatement criteria, and that's being bid out through the city engineer's office. Of all those that are out there, I believe they're going out for bid. We're looking at probably more than $25,000. So you'll see much larger assessments with more houses being hopefully taken down this year as compared to what we've done in the past.
Okay. Well, if these houses are they're abandoned properties, evidently people don't want them anymore. You know, is the city going to get stuck with the cost of demolishing them then, Ron, and the asbestos?
Again, all that will be assessed back onto the properties, just like what we're doing with the securing the property.
So it will have to go back onto the lot then, is
Yes.
that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Ron.
Other questions of Ron?
Yeah, Ron, can you say something about the assessment for 2124 South Duluth Avenue, $1,700 plus? What's involved in the $1,700 plus assessment?
That was the asbestos field testing and asbestos abatement process.
Okay, so I think I see the 8980.
The 8980 was,
It
again,
test-
securing the structure prior to demolishing the house.
Okay. So what do you do to secure it? Do you put a lock on it, or?
No. We have a contractor that we've hired that will go and either board up the windows or plywood over the doors to prevent entry from the obvious access that's being occurring by kids or vagrants or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And then, so this 1786 for the asbestos.
That's the asbestos field testing.
Just the
we had to
test
hire.
cost that much?
Yes. Afraid so.
Wow. Somebody's making money.
Further questions of Ron?
Well, I guess I'll just ask the question on 303 North Fairfax Avenue, the $1,311 one. Is that also asbestos, or?
No, that one was actually securing the structure, which took a little bit more than just simply boarding up the windows and the doors and so forth. That one we had to actually take away some ramps and stairs that posed physical hazards because they were so dilapidated. Also, there was a general cleanup of the property on that, and that's why that cost got a little bit higher.
Okay.
Further questions? Others that wish to address the council on item number 5? No. Name and address, please. We've got it all.
Good evening, Mayor Munson, Council. My name is Bill Williams, and this is Beverly Brown Williams, and we own Brown and Williams Properties. The house that we're discussing tonight is one that we rescued from having to be demolished, and it had the front door was completely off, and I have a picture of the before and after of what we did to the house. If you can see that.
For council reference, this is the second one on page 2.
Well, here's the part of the situation that's disturbing. We didn't even own the house until long after this stuff was done. And we had the house rented for $600 as it's rented right now. It's the one at the bottom, same house. And what's happened is we've received a bill that slipped through the land title company or something for $70, which we feel is unfair because it's not ours. It's something we didn't have anything to do with. And so when we went to the land title company, they gave us the rundown on the house. It was bought by R.J. Reynolds, and they bought it in '04, and then it was a voluntary foreclosure by the First Dakota Bank. Well, First Dakota Bank came to us and asked us if we could do anything. And so, yeah, we said, we'll take it, and I bought it for $24,000, and then they gave us $20,000, of which we put the entire $20,000 into it. That's why it's renting today for $650. We also fixed up the garage in the back, and we plan to put a driveway in, which we haven't done yet. But what we're contesting here is the unfairness of this $70. It's something we didn't even know existed, and it slipped through with a title company. We took it to the title company to find out, and I don't know who's responsible for it, but we don't feel it's fair that we buy a house and have a bill come a month or a year after we've owned it.
Questions?
Ron, could you address that in terms of what we do consistently in these sort of cases?
Pardon me?
Again, this gets to be quite a long process and so forth, but there was a notice and order on the house because the house was vacant. It was owned by R.J. Reynolds, I believe, before the Williams took over the property. So the notice and order was issued for the property, and then I believe in March of 2007, we found that the house, again, was unsecured. And that's when we hired the contractor to go out and actually secure the structure. And his invoice shows that he was out there March 6th of 2007. I believe that the Williamses bought it in August of 2007. What we're seeing here is the assessments that happened in 2007 that's coming to the council right now. Last year, with only one housing inspector, we just didn't keep up with the assessments that probably should have been brought in at this time of year, about a year ago. So,
further questions? Kenny?
Okay, I guess I didn't hear all of that. I guess you sort of got quiet when you got away from the speakers. Who owned the house when this assessment was actually done? R.J. Reynolds?
R.J. Reynolds was the original property owner, but as far as I know, that there might have been some bankruptcy. There was nobody that responded to our notice and order, and there was nobody that responded to the notice to secure the structure. That's why we ended up hiring a contractor to secure the structure, again, to keep children and other vagrants or whatever from getting into that property. And again, that was in March of 2007. The Williamses bought the structure in August of 2007, ended up doing everything that was in the notice and order and then some, and bringing this property back to a viable piece of property. And as far as getting the assessment in place, what you're seeing, what we're giving you for assessments is all those that happened in 2007. So that's why we're talking about a leg. And then again, I believe that the council only hears this once a year too. So there's this time period where people that buy properties are not going to have this type of access of information at the Register of Deeds as far as where we're at for notice and orders.
Mr. Mayor, I guess I'd like a point of clarification here now. Are we going to be voting on all these 5, 6, 7, 7, and 7 one at a time as bundles?
I suppose you could, or you could vote on one if you want to pull one out.
Yeah, that's. I guess that's what I thought. This one here, I'd like to delete it or pull that one out, and I guess I didn't know what the procedure was.
Do you have one that's specific? Are you talking about?
Just this one right here, case 027492.
Okay, so you'd like to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the first 8?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll get there. You can do that.
Do I need to
get
make
to
a
that point? You want to make a motion now?
Yes, I would like to do this.
Let's make a motion to take the first 8. Is there a second?
Brown seconds.
Brown seconds. Okay, we've got that motion before us. And that would be the assessments for the first 8. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to take the opportunity to thank the Williams for improving the neighborhood dramatically. Those are pretty dramatic photos, and
It's number 17.
thank you for your work on that neighborhood. We appreciate it.
Okay, we've got a motion been made, second to accept the first 8 on the assessments. All in favor of that motion to accept, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Benega. I'm sorry. Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
That motion passed 6 yes, 1 no, and 1 excused. Now, on the last one, do you want to delete that one? You got to take action on it, don't you?
We need to move it in a positive, right, and then defeat it?
Yeah, that, you can.
I'll move to approve.
Item number 8. Brown moves. Is there a second?
Second, let's.
Okay, and if you want, now, if you, to defeat it, it's a no vote. Okay, everybody understands that?
I'm sorry, I'm lost. I know, but did we just approve 6 and 7?
No, we approved the first 8.
Okay.
And
okay.
now we're on the last one.
We're still
but
on
you gotta do
item
the
5.
positive one, but you have to do the positive, and so if you want to include that, let's say it this way, in the 8, then you'd vote yes. If you want to leave it off the 8, and you'd vote no. So to have the wishes of the Beverly, you'd vote no. Okay, all in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
I'm sorry, can I know who made the motion in second, please?
Brown made it, let's second it.
Councilmembers Anderson.
No.
Brown.
No.
Costello.
No.
Jamison.
No.
Knutson.
I'm a little confused. No.
Litz.
No.
Staggers.
No.
All members present have voted. There's no assessment on it, so it's 0 yes and 7 no.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. I think the Williams it took it off.
It's
Our
off.
action
You don't
took
have to
it
pay
off.
You don't have to pay it.
So you're
So
free.
you're done. So it's off. So, okay, let's move with item 6.
Item 6 is a resolution approving the special assessment roll for the mowing of weeds and grasses in various areas in the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Gene Rowan, Horse Director of Finance. On item number 6, we have total assessments of $10,947. Weeds and grass in Minnehaha County is $10,729. And weeds and grass is 2 of them that are in Lincoln County for $218. And there are staff available to answer questions about specific assessments.
Questions of Gene or staff on item number 6? Others that wish to address the council on item number 6?
Council Mayor, Chris Vonderleith, 1116 North Spring Avenue. I did receive 2 tickets that were in the time frame that I was not in the house. I was ordered to be out of the house by a judge due to a divorce. The bank took over, in my understanding, that they were going to be taking care of the property. There was nobody there for a little over a year.
What was the address? That again was what?
Huh?
What was your address?
1116 North Spring Avenue.
First one, okay.
I think
Okay,
it's
go ahead.
the third to the last page.
It's the first one. Okay. Excuse me, go ahead now.
I did receive 2 tickets and a notice about those 2 tickets for August and September of 2007. At that time, the bank had taken back over the property due to the divorce, and I don't feel that I should be paying that when it was in the divorce, or in the bank's hands.
Okay, questions?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I got confused on which item it was on number 6, on the section 6. Which name?
It's Vonderleith.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I was confused.
Further questions?
There appears to be 3 tickets
I was only sent 2.
On the third to the last page, there's 2 more. One for $92.50 and one for $83.25.
I only received one for 90-something and 80-something for August and September of 2007.
Is there any staff person that can address that issue? Thanks, Dwayne.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Dwayne Stahl, Parks and Recreation. There are 2 special assessments, or excuse me, 3 on your list there. The last one, or one of them, is in 2008, which Wells Fargo Bank trustee is the owner on the tax roll. The other 2 we're given notice. We did send for the interest of the council, for our new members, and just a refresher course, the nuisance vegetation ordinance is established with 2 public notice put in the paper by the city clerk's office, and that is by ordinance. That is what's required by the city to let the residents know of the ordinance, to keep the properties into management conditions. We do send out a courtesy notification when we receive a complaint. This is a complaint-driven process. We sent out 2 letters. We did send them to Christopher. That's 1116 North Spring Avenue. One letter went out September 17th. The other one went out July 18th. We do have pictures of the property and the condition they were in when we sent these letters out. Before, we give a 7-day period for the property owners to address the conditions. We come back to re-inspect the property. If it's not into compliance, we send it to the code enforcement officer, who at that time can write a citation. If he does write a citation, he contacts us. We contact a contractor that goes out and puts the property into compliance. When we get the bill from the contractor, the first thing we do before we invoice it is we check with the county tax roll. And in each 2 occasions, Christopher's name is on the tax roll. And once it's on there, we proceed. If that's the individual that we sent the letter to, we proceed with the invoice, and that's what we did on both of these properties. I'm sorry that date's cut off up there. The second one was in August 2007. Once we see that, that's the name on the tax roll. That's the taxpayer. That's who's responsible for the property. That the best information we have, we go ahead and send out the invoice. Any questions?
Questions?
So, Dwayne, just to be clear, there are 3 assessments on this property, but Mr. Vonderleith is responsible for just 2 of them, right? And Wells Fargo would be responsible for the 3rd one when they had the property.
Correct.
Okay.
Dee?
Dwayne, under these are rather different circumstances when, in fact, it sounds like that Mr. Vonderleith, if I'm saying his last name correctly, was ordered out of the house by a judge. I mean, to me, that's a little bit different than our ordinary circumstances. Have we run into that kind of a situation before, and if so, have we handled it any differently?
Basically, we go with what's on the tax roll. If there's a deed transfer, when we go there, we look at the situation. If there's those circumstances, we wouldn't go ahead and do an invoice.
Yes.
Again, as in the case with the last one, these bills are going to get assessed against the property, not
Correct.
against the individual.
That's correct.
So if he doesn't pay it, it's going to go on the property. And I don't know, it appears that Wells Fargo owns the property now?
That's as of June 18th. Yeah, as of June 18th, Wells Fargo is now on a tax roll. And that's what would be assessed to that property.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Dwayne, do we report to any credit agencies of these if they're not paid by somebody, or does this just go on the rolls? It's not a. I'm worried about somebody's credit being affected by.
It goes on the property as a lien.
Okay, so it's not. You don't report to a credit
No.
agency, is what? Okay, very good.
Further questions? Greg?
I just want to understand the timeline. Chris, when were you asked to leave the house?
I was asked to leave March 17th of 2007.
March.
Yes.
And was anybody in the house after you left?
My wife was for 1 week, and, well, now ex-wife. She was there for 1 week, and she had only 1 week to be out because she could not get her name on the loan.
Okay.
Further questions? Kermit?
Yeah, can I ask a question about another property, or, Dwayne, can you say something about 053916, which is the Islamic Center of Sioux Falls? $468. 053916.
What's the address permit?
Oh, it's 1909 East 6th Street. The reason I'm asking is because
It's on page 6.
What page?
I don't
Page
recall a
6,
whole lot of
fifth item.
vegetation around that facility, and I was wondering, the $468, that seems like quite a bit.
There were several reasons for that, and if we get the picture up, you'll see
Okay.
the vegetation is quite high. There was a demolition there, and there was a lot of garbage in the area. The vegetation was very high. It is a fairly large lot. What's the address again?
Oh, it's 1909 East 6th Street. Uh-huh. Yeah. No, it's... Oh, wait, I'm looking at the supposed property owner's address. Oh, okay. 1600 West 7th. Sorry about that.
So to continue with that, before they could do any mowing, there was an extensive cleanup before they could do the mowing, so they didn't destroy their equipment.
Questions? Further discussion on item number 6.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mayor, I would like to, I realize that the code enforcement people need to do what they need to do, and I have great respect for their thankless work. But under the, there are sometimes extenuating circumstances, and I would like to make a motion to dismiss 027396 and 027396. I'm sorry, I guess it's the same number here. Mr. Vander Lee's two personal assessments under the circumstances.
The 9250 and the 8325?
That's correct.
So your motion is to dismiss those two?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Anderson.
Anderson seconds. Motion is to dismiss those two, the 9250 and the 8325. Everybody understand that motion? Okay. All in favor of that motion to dismiss those two items will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
No.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Did I get everybody? So it's 6 yes, 1 no, and 1 excused. Those two have been dismissed. Is there further discussion, or anyone else wish to address the council on item number 6?
Can I ask about the lot at 4611 East Brennan Drive?
What page is that on? Can you tell me?
That's on page 8.
Okay.
The supposed property owner is Minnehaha County Supportive Housing, but it's got a St. Paul address.
Yes, we received a complaint on this property from a constituent of yours on June 7th, 2008. We sent a notification out to the Minnehaha County Supportive property owner that was on the tax roll at the time. We gave until June 17th to comply with the city code. We re-inspected on that date, found it to not be in compliance, and sent it to the code enforcement officer, who wrote a citation, notified us. We called the contractor. Contractor mowed the property on June 18th. In the amount of $468.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the concerns I have, once again, is the cost on this one. Is it $468 to mow that? Or?
The cost is based on a process where we go out for bids for contractors to do these nuisance vegetation mowing. We pick the lowest bidder, trying to provide the community with the least cost to them, if it comes to that. I don't know what else we can do.
Okay, so for something like this property here, can I assume that when you ask for bids, is it just for the how do you ask for a bid?
The bids are for the entire year.
For the entire year, yes.
For the entire growing season. This particular, falls under an undeveloped, we have two contractors, one for developed properties, your residential lawn, and undeveloped properties like this one. It is, the cost is $39 an hour. It took them 12 hours to mow this.
12 hours to mow it.
There again, there's a lot of debris in there, and to protect their equipment, they walk it first. They do string trimming around streetlights, so it does look maintained at the time they get done. Their name is on their trucks when they're mowing these properties, so they have some sense of pride in leaving a good job.
Okay. So once again, Dwayne, the area we're talking about is just the area that has the address inside the yellow lines. Is that right?
Correct.
Further questions on any item 6?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Michael Murphy, and I own the property I'm speaking about is 1604 East 18th Street, and I've received a bill for mowing at that property that I have some questions about, or I'd kind of rather dispute it.
Go. You have some questions on that, you said? On 18th Street?
It's on page 8 at the bottom. The page corners or the page numbers are in the upper right-hand corner by the staple. They're kind of hard to see.
Okay, go ahead. There we go.
Mayor and council members, again, I guess they're going to take the picture that probably looks the least flattering. Even at that point, the grass there is really not terribly high, and that's basically, they're taking a very small picture of the lot. It's an 1.5 acre lot. That's where the grass grows the fastest and the thickest. It's at the very rearmost. I mean, it faces 18th Street, which faces Mid-American Energy. The busy frontage street or whatever, which is River Boulevard, is a couple hundred feet to the north there. And I don't even own the whole 1.5 acres, but yet the company or whoever that came in and mowed not only my half, but my neighbor's half, and sent me a bill for the entire thing. We never had a problem with this. He's never had a problem. He's probably a little better at mowing than I am, but they saw fit to mow the whole property, even though this is probably the only part that was a little bit overgrown. And I guess perhaps they can't discern that, but I get a bill for $140, I believe, to mow both properties, of which I only own half of the property. And this is probably the only part where the grass, and even right there, I can't get that close to that chain link fence. My mower won't get that close, so it really looks a little worse than it is. It's probably, the majority of the grass in that picture right there is probably maybe 6 inches high, but I can't get right up to the edge of that little blue garage. I can't get right up to the edge of that chain link fence unless I want to make an all-day job of it and get a weed whacker and do all that. But I do keep it mowed, and I'm just a little, I guess I understand, or I'm coming to understand, that this is a complaint-driven process, and I'm really struggling with whoever is complaining against me, because I'm also getting citations for cars being there and for parts or rubbish or whatever. I have no rubbish. I have no, I don't want to go off on a tangent on a different deal here, but I can drive around town and find any number of properties that this pales in comparison to. And I'm not a guy that's going to drive around and take down addresses and call people's property in, but I just find it, again, I agree with, it's a thankless job that the code enforcement has to do, and I know they're just doing their job, but this has gotten old. I've gotten 4 citations in the last few months about cars. This is industrial property. I don't know what they want me to do, have a carousel there and sell cotton candy or what, but I mean, it's a rather industrial commercial piece of property. I have a few cars there. It's kind of my hobby shop garage or whatever, but they don't stay there forever. They're not all jacked up and, with hoods and windows and doors and wheels missing, and I'm just, I'm getting frustrated at getting these $100 tickets in the mail, and and this mowing one was another one right on top of it, and they probably caught me right before I mowed it, but that's neither here nor there. But I just think we got better ways to spend our resources than going after somebody that's got grass 6 inches high, and when I can go to vacant or some of these lots around town that are undeveloped or whatever they are, and the grass is anywhere from knee high up to my waist, and maybe they're getting ticketed, maybe they're not, but I just kind of question this, or at least I'd like to question who's calling this in. And even the yards right around my property right there are not always perfectly maintained, or they have old cars sitting around or whatever, and but I don't want to get into a complaining contest with anybody. I'm just frustrated at this. I try to keep this property up, and it just seems like someone in the neighborhood, perhaps for whatever reason, is taking a dislike to me, and I feel like I'm being penalized for it. Thank you.
Questions of Michael? Go ahead, dear.
Mr. Murphy, I was wondering what, again, as you said, as you well know, it is a complaint-driven system, and I was wondering if you had given any thought to maybe visiting with some of your neighbors in person. I mean, just going door to door to the closest neighbors to chat even. And I said it very seriously to see, you know, if
that's
you could
probably
work out
a
some
good
hard
idea.
feelings or whatever.
Yeah, but that's the other thing. I guess I have thought of that. Thank you for bringing that back to mind. But then I thought, you know what? I'm a quiet guy. I'm almost never there. I'm never there late at night. I don't make any noise. I don't have a dog. I don't have loud cars or vehicles going in and out of there. Like I said, I use it as a hobby shop. Sometimes I'm not there for a week or 10 days at a time. I mean, I'm the quietest neighbor I would think that anybody could have. I mean, I got to make a little noise when I mow it, but it's not a full-blown repair shop or anything like that, and I don't have a bunch of trash laying outside. I try to keep control of the weeds, which I really can't even do because every time I spray for them, the whole neighborhood is full of weeds and dandelions, and wind and pollen and bees do their job, and I can't keep on top of it, but I do try to keep it looking presentable. And you're right, maybe I should visit with the neighbors and see if I've created some hard feelings in some way unknown to me, because this is getting real old real fast. I'm ready to sell and just move away from there because it just seems ridiculous to me. But I think you pose an interesting question.
And, Mayor, then another question I was going to ask you is, okay, so then you had, on these several citations that you've had recently, so you had some notice, though, before there was a fine, correct?
I think I did get one notice in the mail, and then I just started getting the hard cards, and it's probably not. I'm probably crossing lines here. I've been cited and billed for mowing, but then I've also been cited for unlicensed vehicles or rubbish or something along those lines. I've gotten I can hardly read the guy's writing. He must be a doctor on the side, but I get these citations, and I can read that they're $100 or $200 citations, but the guy's handwriting is not that legible. But I think it's for vehicles on the property, and I don't know if it was, he said tree limbs or rubbish, or I think one time I got a thing in the mail that said manure, and I don't even have an animal, so I don't know. I guess I didn't bring all those copies. I get a little frustrated and throw them away.
Excuse me. My last question for you this evening is, again, we're just, trying to encourage people to, these staff people that have these thankless jobs are, because we have passed these ordinances expecting our city to look nice, which I really like it to be.
I agree.
And I was wondering, what do you think, what is fair? What is reasonable? If we were reversed here in position tonight, what is reasonable? What's fair to you?
Well, like I said, they didn't even do it justice by taking one picture from the very worst vantage point that it could be taken from, and perhaps that was done with intention. I don't know, but this is an 1.5 acre property, and they've given you one little snapshot of one little portion of the property that is at the rearmost of the property, facing Minnehaha or Mid-American Gas Company. I don't think I'm offending them as a neighbor. They're clear across 18th Street from me. I think they've got better things to do than complain that my grass is 6 inches high. But I don't even know that picture. I don't know what it looks like to you, but other than right there at the very fence line that I can't get close to with the mower, and right at the garage, blue garage, where I can't get close to it with the mower, the grass is not very high, even in that photo, and that's probably at its worst. I would say that grass, would not be 8 inches high. So, maybe if they laid down on the ground and really, they could make it look like it's a foot high if they wanted to, but they should have been on, they went on the property to mow it. They should have went on the property and took some pictures, and maybe from several different vantage points of the property. It's a huge, it's a 60,000 square foot property, and we're looking at 1,000 feet of it here, if that. Okay.
Kermit? You mentioned that half of this property actually belongs to you. Is that right?
Right. It's a 1.5 acre parcel, and I roughly own half of it.
So you own about 3/4 of an acre.
That's correct. But they did go ahead and mow the whole thing, and that other guy's, he's much better at mowing than I am. His grass is never high, but they went ahead and mowed the whole property, and then they sent me a bill for the whole thing.
How long does it take you to mow your property?
Well, I just did go out and buy a brand-new $2,000 mower so I could stay on it better. It took a while with a push mower, but I would say to mow my half of it or whatever with a riding mower, you could knock that out in an hour.
Okay.
I'm sure nobody's mowing it with a push mower. You're right, I agree with you on some of these mowing costs. It just seems like, where do you pull this number out of? Or, you know, I've got a mower, I'll travel for $40 an hour.
Further comments, questions, I should say.
I don't have a question, I just have a motion when you're ready for it.
Further questions on it?
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
I have a question
Go
for
ahead.
Dwayne. I have two questions. The first one is, this gentleman is saying that half the property is not his, but he's getting fined for this. What can we do about that? Or
I couldn't substantiate that right now, Mr. Staggers. I would have to go back to see if there was another notice sent out to the adjacent property owner. I will say that this one is a repeat offender. If you go back to the screen, there's quite a few nuisance complaints on this property. This one happened to be a repeat, and part of our process is we don't send that courtesy letter out every time there's a complaint on a property. We send it out once a year. This one happened to be the second time that year, and that's why Mr. Murphy did not receive a letter that second time. There's a lot of people out there that wait for us to send the letter to mow the properties. And if Mr. Murphy has not already received a letter, there is one in the mail because the property has been turned in this past week, and another letter did go out for this property to be mowed.
And then the other question I have is that tonight we're talking about all of this is complaint-driven. However, I've heard that quietly the city is being more proactive now. So if city employees see some of this, they're going to call it in. Is that true or false?
Anybody can call it in. It's a complaint.
But how about city employees being kind of instructed to be aware of this and call it in?
My employees don't.
How about other city employees?
I can't vouch for them.
Further questions? Others that wish to address the council on item number 6 on the issue? Dee, did you have a...
Yeah, I don't, maybe a little soft this evening on things here, but I would like to make a motion regarding Mr. Murphy's property, 051159. I would like to lessen that amount to $70, which is about half, but I am really hoping in the next 2 years while I'm on city council that we do not have any more complaints about your property.
So your motion is to lower the amount of the assessment from $138.75 to $70. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconds. Further comments on the motion to decrease the amount to $70? Go ahead.
I guess I've sort of had some conflict on this. Basically, I drive by this place about every day, and I've never really seen it as being an issue. So I guess I have serious questions on who the complainee is and why this property keeps coming up on the complaint list.
Okay, we got a motion made, seconded, for us for $70. Further comments? Go ahead.
Well, Councilman Knudsen, I certainly appreciate the gesture, and I know in no way want this to seem as though I'm ungrateful, but for one, it would only be right that I would only pay half of that. I don't own the whole property. And it's really not about $70, you know. It's really about, like Kenny, Councilman Anderson says, you know, this is a non-issue here. I mean, I don't know who keeps calling it in, but like he said, this is the very backmost of my property where the grass grows the fastest for whatever reason. But I like it to look nice too, and I mow it all the time. Some days I mow half, and then I mow another half. He says, I forget the gentleman's name. He says it's just been complained in again. I just actually mowed it today and yesterday and today, but. Someone has really a lot of time on their hands if they've got nothing better to do than call this property, and I
I'm somewhat feel like I've kind of gotten ambushed here where I've got one photo on a property that's huge. You've got one photo. There is no way that the rest of the property looks like that. That is not representative of the property, and although and even that photo is not really that decisive in my mind. I mean, if you look at that photo, I can't really tell how deep that grass is in that picture. I mean, it's not up to your knees if that's what you guys think, or if that's the way that picture appears. It's certainly not. I would never let it get that high, because then I can't mow it. I mean, I have to be able to mow it. I can't afford $140 for somebody to come in and mow it all the time. I mow it myself, and I have a riding mower, and I put it to good use. And but I have other things too. I own other property in Minnehaha County. I formerly owned 3 homes. I'm down to 2 homes, but I've got other things to do than just get out here with my weed whacker and my it doesn't have to look like a golf course. It's industrial property, and again, this is a very unflattering, unfair photo, I think, when we're talking about a property of approximately 1.5 acres. We're not even looking at 1/4 of an acre here. We're not looking at anything. We're looking at one patch of grass.
We got a motion here for us to join some, Pat.
Just a comment, Mr. Murphy. I think what we don't know is that if this is the bill for just your property or for your property and your neighbor's property. I mean, you're very well likely that your neighbor got billed and he paid it. We just don't.
No, he did not. I've spoken with him about it. He thanked me for coming over and mowing his grass, and I said, well, I was going to come over and thank you for mowing my grass. And then that's how we came to compare notes about this. I said, you didn't? No, I didn't. And then it was some time later, I get a bill in the mail for $138 and something cents, and I'm like, oh, that's who mowed our property for us. And he's never, ever been cited. He's never, ever had a problem. And now suddenly, this is just something that's become a recurring problem. And apparently I have a neighbor or something that's unhappy with me or something, because this is really, what this is over-enforcement of this. And I understand it's complaint-driven. I'm not saying that the city is at fault or anything like that. But someone has got way too much time on their hands and has some kind of axe to grind with me, and I don't know what it is, because I've never had a conflict with any of my neighbors, to my knowledge, I guess, unless I'm not a sleepwalker. I don't think I've done anything I'm unaware of, and I'm just really feeling burdened by this constant pressure and these notices and these citations when I do my best, to keep the property out.
We've got a motion before us that takes the assessment from $138.75 down to $70. Motion been made and the motion been seconded. Further comments on the motion to lower the assessment? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to lower the assessment to $70, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Blitz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
That motion prevails, 7 yes, 1 excused, so $70 it is. Others who wish to address the council on item number 6.
I have one more question, if I could, Mr. Mayor, to Dwayne.
What page, please, Kermit?
Just a general question. The $39, that's for a residential, is that right? $39 per hour, is that right?
I think the residential is 35.
Oh, okay.
35 or 34. It's 39 for the undeveloped.
Oh, 39 for the undeveloped. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Anyone else wish to address the council on item number 6? Is there a motion to approve the rest of the assessments?
I so move Knutson.
Is there a second?
Second, Anderson.
Anderson seconds. Further comments on the motion to approve the remaining assessments?
Well, I guess like our previous votes, this here, I'm just simply concerned that the city is not getting a very good deal here for taking care of the weed mowing. It seems like $39 for undeveloped land is just simply too much. $35 for residential house, I think it's just simply too much. I think we could do a lot better in getting better price. So we're overcharging these people is my concern.
Mr. Mayor, question for Councilor Staggers. They said they go out and get bids on this. How else would you do it?
Well, we could have the city take, this is just a suggestion, off the top of my head, but the city could take college students that they hire to help maintain the parks to also be involved in this too. Because we do have a very large summer contingent of college students out there working for the city. So this could be, that's just one possible alternative.
I believe they're kept pretty busy mowing the parks, Don Kearney, correct? Thank you.
Well, I've also seen some other times when they might be used for a little more productive purpose.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'd just like to comment to Mr. Staggers, that, you've got to come up with a lawnmower, you've got to have maintenance on it, and it also provides liability issues. We all know about lawnmower accidents, and so there's a number of things that just the basic expense doesn't address. Getting a cheap job just doesn't address. And I think that if somebody's going to put a bid in on something, be in that business, pay the insurance, pay the employees, pay the FICA, pay all the things that they pay, they have to be properly recompensated for it. And I don't really know what that number is, but I suspect it's a little bit more than what you're wishing for.
Yeah. Well, also, too, I'll be bringing this up when we talk about the tree trimming, the minimum of $150 just for showing up. I think it's a little excessive, too.
Further comments?
One other comment I was going to add to what's already been said is that I think, too, it's important for us to remember that there's actually probably a little bit of a punitive nature built into this fee also because, again, the city, it's not really our responsibility to take care of people's properties. So, I think that's a little bit of the situation also.
Got a motion been made and seconded to approve the rest of the assessments in item 6. All in favor? Yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
All members present voted 6 yes, 1 no, and 1 excused. Item 6 has been approved for the assessments. Item 7.
Item 7 is a resolution approving the special assessment roll for nuisance removal in various areas in the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Gene Roanhorst, Director of Finance again. This is the assessment rolls for tree trimming, snow and litter removal. Part of it is handled by parks and part is handled by, the snow removal is handled by public parking. The tree trimming, there were 44 incidents of properties in Minnehaha County for $7,114. Snow removal in Minnehaha County, there were 55 incidents. Properties with assessments totaling $11,260 for tree litter removal, and this is in Minnehaha County. There were 12 properties for $7,265, and snow removal in Lincoln County for $3,465, and there is staff available to answer questions about individual transactions.
Others on the count that would like to address the council on, let's start with litter. Anyone on the litter? Okay, let's go to tree trimming.
Mayor, honorable members, and citizens. My name is Suleiman Ahmed, and I came to the United States in 2000 as a refugee, and I love Sioux Falls, and I bought a house in 2002, and I am staying here because I love this country and I love Sioux Falls. And I received a letter from Mr. Dion Stahl about tree trimming. And I called Ashley Company, and actually they came and they trimmed the tree for me. And after that, I called Mr. Stahl and I told him, I see like 2 boxes in this letter saying for trimming and brush. And he told me about the brush there. It's supposed to be like 10 feet. And when Ashley came and trimmed the tree, they measured this branch and they said it is almost 10 feet. So because I like trees, they said, okay, it is normal. It is minimum of 10 feet, so I didn't remove it. But unfortunately, after a while, I received that Stahl sending me. Yeah, Stahl told me that we are talking about shrimp. This one, he said my shrub or that small tree, it makes troubles to the traffic or to the, I don't know.
Excuse
So
me, sir.
we send
Sir, I apologize. I didn't catch your name. Could you say it again, please?
Suleiman Ahmed. I live in 1121 North Kiwanis Avenue.
Thank you so much. I apologize.
He said it is about the shrimp, and I think he sent a letter to me. I have two doors, so sometimes during winter I don't use to open that door, but because this is the second time for me to have some bills from the city from install. First one had been like a month ago also about snow removal. He sent the contractor and he removed the snow for my sidewalk with 150. I said, and now, so I used to take care of these things. And when Ashley came and they trimmed the trees, I told them, is there anything in trouble? They said, no, the branch is okay and everything is okay. But Mr. Stahl, he said, my shrimp is the problem. So he sent the contractor and they come this small thing with 150. So I went to his office and I talked to him, Mr. Stahl, this thing, 150 is too much for this, and it is not a big deal. I cut it like 3 times, and I have a lot of photo here. But I know all these members, they need to go home, so I told him this thing, it cannot cost like 150. And just like a month ago, I called the superior company for cutting the trees. They cut all the trees around my house with 250 because I have some program with the Sioux Falls development, and my shrimp cost 150. So all thing is yours. Thank you so much. And I'll be glad to be with these nice people. Thank you.
Questions?
The item is tree trimming on page 1, the first item.
First item.
So it's tree trimming. Okay, Kermit?
Oh, that's what I was wondering about, too. It's,
So
but
it's
then
a
also, do you have snow problems, too? You said something about snow removal,
Yeah,
too? So we got.
I remember the year before also, I shoveled the snow. I am diabetic. Sometimes I used to do the job perfect, but that time I didn't do it in the perfect way. So Mr. Stahl also sent a contractor and removed it for 150, and I paid this bill for 150 for the snow removal. And even at that time, if I got 150, I will buy a snow remover. I paid the 150, but now for this shrimp, which is said about 150, I don't know.
Oh, come on.
For the snow, I paid for it. And for the tree, I brought the company which trimmed the trees, everything, and the branches, they said it is below 10 feet, it is okay. But I think Mr. Stahl is missing, or miss, because he's supposed to I have 2 boxes. One is for the tree trimming, and the other one is empty. I called him, and even I went to his office, I told him, Mr. Stahl, you sent for me letter saying that in the left box, I have to trim the tree. There is nothing with the shrimp. He said, I will not saying anything. You're supposed to look for your property. And after that, after I finished the tree, I told him, can you send some people to come and check if everything is okay? I went to his office like 2 times. And after that, he told me that the problem is the shrimp. I don't know. Thank you so much.
Questions?
Dwayne?
Yes.
I can see where communication might be a little bit of a problem. Did you encounter any complications? And did you talk directly, and or do you have a copy of the actual?
After,
first?
I don't recall prior to the trimming ourselves. This is part of our project trim area that we sent a letter out, and I don't believe there's a problem of reading English.
No.
Okay. The letter went out September 26th, which explains the ordinance and what we were asking for. With that, our brochures that we put in there, project trim, how to trim the trees, what the requirements are over certain streets, 10 feet over the sidewalk, 12 feet over most residential streets, 16 feet over arterial and collector streets. That letter went out September 26th with a November 15th due date. That we give 6 to 8 weeks, so if people need to hire somebody, then they have that time to do that. We come back around. In this particular instance, we came back after the 15th and gave an extension to December 12th. That note there is kind of our safety net. If somebody didn't get the letter for whatever reason, threw it out with other mail, whatever, that's a way to make sure that people know that they still need to trim. We came back after the 12th. We actually came on the 17th, and the sidewalk is not passable without hitting eye level, which is very dangerous, and definitely below eye level across this sidewalk. Obviously a nuisance and in violation of city code. So the 2 notices were given out. I talked to Mr. Silliman and said, really, this is kind of an issue with if you hired a tree care company to trim your tree up to city code, trim your property to city code, part of that probably falls on them for not pointing out that there's deficiency over here. If they're told not to touch that, then that's a different issue. But I think it probably falls back on the company that did the trimming.
Is that?
No, I think at that time you were talking to me about the branch. Because you put in your letter, you put X for the branch that is supposed to be 10 feet. So when the company they came, they measured this thing, and this is what I thought about. The problem is about the branch which you mentioned in your box. Number one, I call you, tell me which box you have. I said I have a box for the branch. It's supposed to be 10 feet. Not at that time there is nothing about the shrub. You didn't mention to me a tree or anything.
Yeah, talking on the phone, when I say branch 10 feet over the sidewalk, I'm talking all branches, not if you're just talking about one tree. I'm talking about all the trees.
I go to your office and I tell you, please send someone if there is something wrong, right? And I tell you, I trim the trees, and the actual company they do, and they measure also the branch, and they say it is okay. And you said you are going to send someone, and after that I just received from you the bill. I didn't receive that you tell me that the shrub is a big deal or a trouble. Or I can cut it with my hand. I will not bring a company that I to pay 150.
That's why we wonder why you didn't do that.
Yeah, if I know, I will. I have a scissors in my hand.
It was in the letter that you received in the brochures.
So let's, any other more questions?
I guess I have a concern about this one. I mean, I walk a lot. I've seen a lot worse than this. And couldn't the city, just out of courtesy, say, I think we're going to break these little twigs here so that it's in compliance? Because there's nothing, it doesn't seem to me there's anything substantial hanging there, just little tiny twigs that would take maybe 5 minutes to take care of.
Well, we don't break twigs. That's not a biologically sound practice to trim trees that way. We prune them in with a scientific method of proper pruning.
A scientific method, okay. I've heard everything now.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I just want to make sure that, did the homeowner, did you hire a tree service to come after you had gotten the warning or the complaint?
Yeah, when I got that letter of the tree trimming as a branch, I hired the company, and they came and they trimmed the trees, but not the trees, and they measure the branch, and they said it's okay, it is above 10 feet, because they don't want it like less than 10 feet through the sidewalk, so it is okay, and they go, because, and they look even for this shrub, if it is not okay, they can do it in 2-3 minutes. And after that, I call again Mr. Star. I tell him, can you please send someone to come and check for me? I don't want trouble with you. I don't have money. Because now I am looking for money to buy for snow removal, because I told him, you are going to come to me again saying that we remove the snow with 150. And so my problem is that thing, even today I will go and take it off so that I will not pay another 150 to come to send the contractor to trim it, because I can trim it with my scissors or even my hand if I know that it is a big deal. But I concentrated that time on the tree and the branch.
Thank you.
Further questions? Others that wish to address the council on tree trimming?
My name is Kenny Halbritter. I live at 900 West 10th, and I want to apologize to the council for burdening you on February and March. I didn't know this forum existed until I got a letter in August and said you could come down and formally protest this. I should have done it, and I'll make this very brief. I got this tag on my door dated the 15th of February. It said by the 16th at 9:30 in the morning, you got to have your sidewalk cleaned. This is the only notice I received. It said down here $100 or $300 fine if you don't get this done. So I went out and diligently started to chip away. And a couple of days later, on Wednesday, the 20th, it was the coldest day since 1918, 18 degrees below zero. I stopped at 1 o'clock, saw a lawn truck there. I said, what are they doing? They're going to clean your sidewalk. I said, what are you doing? Well, who told you to do this? Well, Dave Skanke. So he's, how do I get a hold of him? I called, and this is the first time I talked to him on Wednesday the 20th, told him I'd willing to work with him, and if I give me some time, I got a big pile of snow here around right in the street. And he said, well, call the street department. And he said, oh, I'll work with you. The street department came out, and within an hour, they'd cleared off a whole chunk on the corner, made it really clean. I thought I'm going to make it, so I got 120 pounds of ice melt, and a friend of mine started chipping away, got an ice remover. On Thursday, I called him again and said I was working with him to get this thing done, and I really appreciate the help here and a little consideration, and I'll do my best to get this cleaned up. On the next day, my 71st birthday, on the 22nd of February, it was all done. At 2 minutes to 5, I called him up, and I said, I thought you were going to work with me on this thing. And he said, I got tired of waiting, and it was all done. So I came down here earlier this year and didn't really know about this forum. I wish I wouldn't have. I am eternally grateful to the city of Sioux Falls, the community development. If you look at my home at 900 West 10th Street, it looks beautiful. I had no interest loan that's going to be paid back when I sell the property that's largely responsible for how beautiful my home looks. I have a new roof and paint, and I'm really proud to be here, proud to be a citizen. But I think in lieu of the fact that I was not given any notice other than this, and there's no written notices. The city ordinance, I did violate it. It said, but they may have the snow removed. And then I've gone through with a legal friend of mine and all the notifications and South Dakota codified law, mailed copy of the notice of hearing. People have gotten notices for violations and given some time. There was no time. So that's my message. If anybody has any questions, I would appreciate getting feedback here.
Any questions?
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, where's the property at here on our list? I don't know if you have this or not, or Tamara, do you know where it's at?
I never seen that list. Am I on, is this inappropriate?
Snow.
Snow. He moved ahead of us, but that's okay.
What is the address in question, sir?
900 West 10th.
It's on page 2 of the snow.
Am I out of line here? I got this
we had
notice.
this last winter, so this is the same one. So Dave, do you want to step up? Dave, is this the one we dealt with last? 3 times. In the council meeting, yeah. Go ahead.
It's page 2, item 5.
Oh, page 2.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Use this again.
Sure. Dave Skanke, Community Development, Public Parking. Before I address Kenny's issue, I'd like to just go through a brief history of the ordinance for the new council members and for those that may need a refresher course. The Community Development Public Parking has been asked to enforce this ordinance. The ordinance is Section 3876, duty to remove. And I'm going to paraphrase some of these sections, but you can certainly look these up on your own. The owner or person in possession of any property abutting any sidewalk shall keep such sidewalk free from snow and ice and shall remove any snow and ice within 48 hours. If you go on down to Section 3877, ordinance or notice, it states the city shall notify all owners
in possession of property abutting any sidewalk to keep such sidewalk free from snow or ice after a snow accumulation. This notice may be given this notice need not be given personally, but may be given generally through the official newspaper annually. And I want to go back to that in just a couple of minutes and address that. Section 3878.1, city may remove. If the owner or person in possession of property fails to remove the snow or ice from the sidewalk within the time specified, the city may have the snow or ice removed and charge the costs against the abutting property. Section 3878-2 talks about the special assessment, and the Finance Department has addressed that in the proper billing of the assessment. Section 38-78-3, violation. One sentence, it is unlawful to violate any provisions of this article. That's your ordinance, and we've been asked to enforce that. I'm going to go back to the notices, but before I do that, there's a couple individuals I'd like to make a couple comments. I think the Attorney's Office would like to address ADA requirements. There's a brief statement that was provided by Gary Cowell addressing the ADA regulations for accommodations for those people with mobility problems. And then also Vicki would like to address the council, and then I will go back to the ordinances and continue on.
Let me ask you a question. On this one here, is this the same one we dealt with in March or something?
That is correct.
What did we do in March? Did we just take testimony, or did we take...
I believe Kenny met with your department, and we tried to work out a deal where we'd set up payments for him.
But did the council take any resolution
No.
on this? They didn't, so they just listened to it. Okay,
Yes,
so that's
that
how
is-
we got
that
here
is
now.
correct.
Okay,
That
that's
is
what
correct.
I'm trying to get at. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, move forward.
So I believe the attorneys would have just a brief statement.
No, it needs to be.
Okay, well, Gary Caldwell, who handles this, couldn't be here, but he said that under the title of the Americans with Disability Act, the city is required to keep the sidewalks within the right-of-way accessible routes for individuals with disabilities, wheelchairs, etc. And says that there is a provision that if you don't enforce that, you can have some sort of a action brought for failure to perform by the federal government, the Department of Justice, for failure to be in compliance, and they have an audit and possible enforcement action. So I guess when you say that there is an ordinance that you're enforcing, there's also other considerations that have to be taken under advice to do what you have to do because of the fact it can impact not only property owners but also disabled people. And that's what he says is one thing that you look at when you see whether or not the walks are kept clean and can be used. Okay?
Then we also have special guests tonight. Vicki, if you would like to come forward and give a little testimony.
Can you hear me? There. I'm Vicki Kirkfleet. I'm at 1019 East Sunrise Place. And I just wanted to share my perspective as a person with a disability and a person who uses a wheelchair. I do drive my own vehicle, and I assemble and disassemble my wheelchair when I get in and out of my vehicle. And because of our lovely winters, I try to plan my trips carefully and wisely. And sometimes when I go out, I go to the trouble of getting to my destination, get my wheelchair out of the vehicle, and then the sidewalks are covered with snow, and I can't get to the building where I'm going to, which you can imagine is very, very frustrating. I think that people do have ample time to get their sidewalks cleared, and I'd just like you to consider the struggle that some people with disabilities have.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question of Vicki?
Vicki?
Thanks for coming tonight. This 900 West 10th Street property, have you ever used your wheelchair in that area or not?
No, I have not.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Go ahead, Kenny.
Just to continue on, I would like to read.
Just make Kenny's question.
From
Dave or Kenneth, you can answer this, either one of you. When you got the notice, how many days was it before they cleaned off the sidewalk?
The notice was given to me on Saturday, the 16th, and it was dated the 15th.
Kenny, come to the microphone, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The notice was dated the 15th at 9:30 in the morning. It said on the 16th at 9:30 in the morning, you've got to have it cleaned off. I got this notice accidentally when I opened the door on Saturday morning, and I saw this tag flying. It was about 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning, an hour or so after I was supposed to have it cleaned. And when I saw the $100 fine and so forth, I thought, well, I better get going here. So I went out and got a shovel and an ice scraper and threw the salt I had available. And then 2 days later, I was still chipping away, and then that was Wednesday. I guess that's more than 2 days, 3 days later. Wednesday, the 20th, is when I saw the truck, and they were about to clean it off, and that's when I called Dave and asked him to work with me. And I was very grateful. I said, I appreciate your help. I don't have this money right now, and I'll work to get this thing clean. And 120 pounds of ice melt, things were looking up. And Friday, without warning, it was all cleaned up. I think I would have had it done over the weekend. So I feel that it was a misrepresentation on his part that he was actually going to work with me, and then to pull the rug out from underneath me and have these guys come in, and it was all done on my birthday at 5 o'clock.
Go ahead.
When did it snow?
I beg your pardon?
When did the snow that was on the sidewalk, when did that
Oh,
come?
it had been snowing off and on. I don't know exactly when. I've had, as if you saw one of the slides, it was very quick. They didn't show it here. If you want to show the front of my house, it's always pretty clean because the sun was on. If you can, yeah, right there. And so that's the way the front looks most of the time. And the side that was a problem is on Walt's side where it gets icy and melts and freezes, and I had problems cleaning it off.
Randy, did you have something?
Oh, excuse me.
Just to answer your question of Randy Bartunik, Director of Community Development. To answer your question when it had snowed prior to that, it was on February 11th, which time we had 3.5 inches. And prior to that, the next measurable accumulation was on February 4th, 3.2 inches.
And what is the city ordinance? How soon are we supposed to have the snow removed?
48 hours after the accumulation.
I wanted to talk about the ordinance in regards to the notification. The ordinance states that legally we put one notice in the Argus Leader to accommodate legal requirements. What we do for customer service, we put actually 5 notices in the paper. We put 3 legal notices. You can take a look at those. I believe those go in starting October, November. If you can switch over to that and focus in on that's the legal. We put that in 3 times, and then we also take out an ad in the newspaper, put 2 different ads in the newspaper. So we have made notification to property owners 5 times in the newspaper. The other things we do when there is a snow alert, that snow alert is also scrolled on the bottom side of the TV when you get the snow alerts, ticketing and towing. So that's the 6th notification. And the pamphlets that get sent out to every resident in the city of Sioux Falls, there's a section in there that if you would like to be notified whenever the city announces a snow alert or other snow removal press releases, sign up for automatic email, www.siouxfalls.org. And there also is in that a Scoop It program, which I think this last year over 1,100 people took advantage of that. Kenny was advised of that Scoop It program. Now I will address Kenny's particular case. The dates, we had initial complaint, initial inspection on February 15th. Notice was left on the door on the 15th. Kenny called on the 19th, stated he needed some additional time. I did give him some additional time. I talked to him on the 20th. You can see in the picture very little was done. I talked to him on the 21st. Nothing was done. On the 22nd, I said, Kenny, it's got to be done. We've got several more complaints on your property. So from the date of inspection, when it should have been done was the, February 15th, and final completion was February 22nd. So that's 7 days that he had to complete this. And if you want to go back to his original property, there has been other complaints on this property. I think that's very noteworthy when we bring these addresses up from this one and other ones that we bring up. That is a listing of all the complaints on this property. Now, I guess I'd like to address Kermit's question, which I know is coming, is on the dollar cost, that he feels that the dollar cost is always extravagant.
I was going to ask how many hours it took.
And I take issue with that because the ordinance is the ordinance. So there's two issues. Number one is that there's been a violation of city ordinance. There's been notification to the property owner that they are in violation of the city ordinance, and they've been given ample time to correct that. They chose not to correct it. Therefore, they were in violation of the city ordinance, and we enforced it. The cost of it, to me, is second nature. I don't think that's even an issue. The city is not in the business of sidewalk snow removal. We do the same thing that the park department does. We go out and try to get bids. It's extremely hard to do that, and the bids usually come in about $48 to $50 per man hour. And in this case, if you want to go back to the picture, Larry, you can see, and one of the requirements I like to have on the contractor is that it's handwork. I don't like to use skid loaders because then we have the issue of torn outside or sod, broken sidewalks, sprinkler heads, and that just creates another issue. So I'm very adamant that we do hand work in these areas. I think 7 days is more than appropriate, and as we go through some of these, I think you'll see a pattern of tree nuisance and weed nuisance and snow removal nuisance that Dwayne and I deal with a lot of the same individuals on the same properties year after year after year, and hopefully with the code enforcement program there you will see that and perhaps take another hard view on what we need to do. And for you, Kermit, I believe the process is a good process. I think the billing is secondary. In fact, if you put in the man hours that the city spends on it, we do not charge an administration fee, and there is not a fine. In my own personal opinion, I think there should be both.
And so how many hours were consumed taking care of that sidewalk on Waltz Avenue? There's a charge of $353.77. So how many hours did it take them?
The invoices go up to finance. I'll see if I may have a copy of that.
I happen to have a copy that states that, and it's on my answer machine, there was 5 men, 6 hours, and the bill was $353. 5 men, 6 hours. So this is way out of line with reality as far as I'm concerned. And that's on my answer machine.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Did you, we think that it snowed, what, 3.5 inches 4 days prior to when they were out, or that time. Was the sidewalk clean prior to that?
Yeah, the front was always clean,
Well,
but the one on Welt, that one I've always had trouble with because it melts in the morning and gets cold in the afternoon.
Because and
I actually
a lot of
cleaned
sidewalks
it.
here, and that doesn't look like 3.5. And I know it, the wind blows and it drifts and stuff.
Sure.
That just seems like that's been there a long time.
What this is like 1 day into it where I put the 120 pounds of ice melt and I ran an ice scraper down the middle. You can see like a half a foot path. I was chipping away at getting it done. I guess the point of my story is that I think I was given his word by Dave that he's going to work with me, and I had a little time to get this thing done. And he made a statement here that on Friday, according to his notes right in front of me, that he gave me notice. He gave me notice after he had done it. He said he couldn't wait any longer. But I had no contact with him on Friday until after it was already done.
Randy, do you have something?
I just wanted to clarify the statement about 5 minutes, 6 hours. It was not 5 minutes, 6 hours. It was 6 hours, period.
So, Randy, if I can
Other
ask...
questions?
If I can ask
Go
Randy
ahead.
then, so 6 hours, so 6 into $350, that's, how much
Well, what
per
they've
hour?
got is 6 hours at $49 an hour, and then there were charges related to the ice melt that they needed to use to clear that.
Okay, so $50 an hour. Do we have a picture, is this the picture of when it was completed that we have here?
Just bringing that up now.
Okay.
I do have that on my answer machine. That Gary Call was at my house on a non-related situation and listened to it. I had more than one person listen to it. 5 men, 6 hours. That's what the guy told me from the lawn place.
We can start with the original inspection. This was the first inspection. This is when we were still trying to work with Kenny and felt that that was kind of good enough. And obviously you can see that it wasn't. And then you can go to the third picture after we hired the contractor. Pretty significant difference.
300 bucks.
And I will admit, it was the snow and ice was there for a long time. It took a lot of chipping and just hand work.
Other questions? Okay, there are others that wish to address the council on the snow removal or the tree trimming or the litter? Come
I just
forward,
had
give
one
me-
comment. There was a question about the assessments, about going to the individual or the property owner. These assessments go to the property, not the property owner. So and what we've done the last year and a half is there is a book down at the county that when we have these pending assessments, it is noted in there. So when there's a title search, the title company should find that. We've had some issues with them not finding that. But the assessment is against the legal address, not the owner. It stays with the property.
Okay, others that wish to address the council on snow removal, tree trimming, or litter now?
Can I make
We're
one
finished
final
with that.
comment?
Quickly, we're finished. We're ready to
Very
move on.
quickly.
I'm ready to move on.
I'm sorry that I believe I was a misrepresentation here, that I was given his word that he was going to work with me.
We've heard that, so we'll have to take that under advisement. Others that wish to address the council on one of the three?
Council, Mayor Munson. My name is Andrea Nowak, and this is my husband, Nate. We live at the property on 613.
And your issue is which one?
Snow.
Of them? Snow, okay.
Yep. 613 South Conklin Avenue here in Sioux Falls.
Council members, that's on page 5, the fifth item. Is it for $235.67?
That's correct.
Okay.
Nowak. We moved into our house in August of just this last year, so we're first-time home buyers, which I feel that there's just a few maybe flaws in the way that this is taken. And I want to say, first off, that I have the utmost respect for all the work that is done. And I'm actually a nurse. I work at Sanford Hospital on the orthopedics floor, so I would be willing to guess that we see hundreds of patients every winter that fall on icy areas and injure themselves. So I seriously know that this is an issue, and so I just want to say that, first of all. But the way that people are notified, I just feel it could be better. We had a notice put on our front door, which we don't use, and I think probably a lot of people don't use their front door. They use a side door, maybe coming in from the garage or whatnot. So we didn't see it, and I was working over that weekend that we got the notice, and I work the night shift 12 hours, and then I sleep during the day so I can work the night shift again. And I was pregnant at the time, too, so I wasn't up for snow removal myself, and my husband works long hours. So I was leaving our house, I believe it was a Sunday night, to go to work, and that's when I saw the little flyer hanging on our door, and I took it very seriously because I saw that it said that we could be fined, and we don't have that kind of money to pay. And so I took it in to my husband before I left for work, and I said, you need to somehow figure out a way to get out there. And it had to be done the very next morning. And and we have a 19-month-old son, so he had put him to bed and then gone out when it's dark. We don't have a snowblower. All we have is a shovel because we can't afford a snowblower. And so he had gone out and shoveled to the best we could. I mean, we honestly, he worked on it for, I don't know, hour and a half trying to get it shoveled. He didn't want to stay out too long, of course, because we can't just leave our son in the house. And so I guess my first thing is I really feel that there needs to be a better way of notifying people. I would rather get a notice in the mail. I realize it's not like grass. Snow you have to remove quickly, so I know that can be an issue, but I would rather have 24 hours notice than to find it hanging on my door and only have a couple hours to figure out what we're going to do. And so I just feel like it's a little strict as far as that goes. And then also, there was a few, we live on 2 city blocks, so I swear we have to shovel half of our entire neighborhood. And that's, I mean, as you all know, and live in South Dakota, it can be pretty treacherous out there. And we did the best that we could with what we had, with the rickety little shovel that we had. And there was a few areas that weren't clear, like this picture shows, I think, that, I don't know if this is before. Okay. But I believe that we, like that, the sidewalk there is pretty clear. And what I think happened, and I don't know for sure, but when they come out and remove the snow, instead of just removing the area that needs to be removed, it's like they go and redo the whole thing and then charge you for the whole thing instead of the area that needs to be done. And that's where I'm frustrated. I mean, $235, I could hire somebody to shovel our entire block for that. I mean, I just think it's really excessive. I'm not saying that, you know, things don't need, I understand the reasons that things need to be enforced and whatnot, but I just feel that that's very excessive. And we can't, quite honestly, we can't afford to pay it. And that's what it comes down to for us is really the money issue, because we have other bills that are far more pressing right now that we're dealing with.
Go ahead.
Do you have anything to say?
Yes, I have a question for Dave on this picture. It's showing the work that's finished, but in the foreground there's a lot of snow. Well, yes, isn't that probably a property adjacent to theirs? All that's
crosswalk.
The crosswalk. Well, that's,
If you look at that, that's the handicap accessible area.
And we weren't
Okay,
aware
that's-
that was our
that doesn't look very
responsibility to
good.
keep that clear. I mean,
Sidewalk is clear to the edge of the curb, that's the ordinance.
okay, so we're going to let the snow and others remain there.
If you look in the center, you can see the ramp down for the handicap accessibility.
I mean,
I didn't
can a
even know that was
wheelchair
there.
adequately get through that?
Well, that's an issue. We're in charge of the sidewalk, we're not in charge of the street.
Sure. But we're also supposed to be helping the citizens of Sioux Falls, and
Yes,
that's
well,
not helping.
So I don't understand the question.
The question is that this is incomplete. Because if somebody is in a
Sidewalk is complete.
if somebody has a wheelchair and tries to go across the street there, it looks like that's a violation of ADA, according to what our city attorney has said.
can I just make a comment to that as well? There was several times where I could hardly even pull away from our house out front because whoever does snow removal on the streets in the city of Sioux Falls didn't clear our streets at all after some snowfalls, and none. And then it would warm up and it would melt, and then it was sheer ice, and there was times back and forth before I could get enough traction to even pull away from my house. So it's like, I'm getting this bill for this. Well, who's responsible for the streets that I almost slipped and fell on and that I couldn't drive off of? And I realize that's a completely different issue, but it does play into this, and I just am very frustrated, I guess.
Further questions? Craig?
Andrea, Nathan, how long have you guys lived in Sioux Falls?
I've lived in Sioux Falls for about 4 years and rented the whole time. But
Nathan, are you from here?
Yeah, about 20 years.
Generally, we all serve when it snows as a notice that we need to get the snow off. Do you have the bill just handy on how many hours it took and what was involved in clearing this?
hours at $49 an hour. It was 2 bags of ice melt and a quarter hour with a skid loader because they couldn't get the ice off. So that's the quarter hour was at actually $18.75 for the skid loader. So it's a total of $222.50.
Just a little question. I live on a corner also, and my corner gets buried just like that picture was. And if you don't get it off there quick, it's a big problem. I don't know if there's any potential solution to preventing that. I don't know if you can, if there's any way to do it, but just as a personal note, I suffer that same ailment every time it snows, and it's killer. But
yeah.
It's just part of the work, I guess, part of the advantage of living on a corner, different things.
I mean, what do you do when you feel like you've exhausted your own resources as far as, I don't have a skid loader to go out and get some of this off. And yes, I realize that that's why we have to maintain it and, immediately go out. But let's be realistic. There's times, I couldn't go out and do it because I was sleeping so I could go take care of my patients at the hospital. I mean, realistically, I can't get out there immediately and get rid of that. And by the time you can get out there, that's what it's like. And what do you do when you just have a shovel? I mean, Yes,
the frustrating thing to me is that I did the best I could do, and the shovel I had wasn't the greatest, and the right side of the sidewalk was all ice. And I think it's just a little crazy to pay $220-some for that. I shoveled that whole side by myself, probably an hour and a half to do all that and to chop ice. That was probably 9 o'clock at night. We got the notice, like Andrew said, we don't use the front door. And, we do check our mail, I guess, and that's kind of how we seen the notice on the door. And, yeah, we jumped right to it. And after this incident, I was driving home from work, and I seen a little snow blower, and I tried to talk the guy down as cheap as I could to get one because I didn't want this to happen again. And I spent $80 that we didn't really have because I didn't want this to happen again, and it's worked great. A lesson learned, I guess, but I think it's just a little ridiculous to pay $230 for something I tried to do. The time we noticed it, and honestly, I didn't realize that big curve was there for wheelchairs, and so.
Just a second. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just would like to say that in response to Councilman Staggers, the information I got just dealt with sidewalks. I wasn't saying that it applied to streets. I didn't want that to be misconstrued. But if you want it to be looked to see whether or not it applies to cleaning streets, I guess I'd have to look into that to answer that. So I just didn't want that misconception that I was painting with that broad a brush as far as what the question was. It was answered by the individual who does the ADA work. Thank you.
But I think if I could just say something too, I think the most important thing is sometimes we get hung up in this regulation or this ordinance or whatever, And, we have to start thinking about the people that are, affected by this. Now, we've been told that, well, $235 or these other charges, that's only secondary. Well, I know it's not secondary for you. It's the number one concern.
Yep.
And we have to start thinking about, the citizens that are affected with these very high costs. I agree with you. I think this is excessively expensive here.
I'm sorry that you didn't see the notice sooner than you did, but just, I think it's just important for all of us to remember, and I don't like snow very much. I don't really like winter, actually, to tell the truth, but that as a homeowner, it's just so important for safety reasons that as soon as it starts snowing, that we know one way or another, regardless, and one way or another, we just have that responsibility, to get the snow removed. Because I would guess that last year, I can't remember the number. We had, I think, more than double the number of snow complaints than we had the year before. And I was receiving some extra than I had received in the past. And so I realize $235 is a lot of money, but on the other hand, I just assume that if in fact someone had fallen and hurt themselves much at all, that they would have gone through $235 almost before they got their registration done at the hospital. So, I'm just saying that even that as citizens, we just need to get rid of snow regardless of, way before notices are delivered.
Further questions? None. Thank you very much.
If I could just make one more comment. Because oftentimes we don't focus on this. But the sidewalk, of course, does not belong to you. It belongs to the city. And so when anybody clears the sidewalk, we ought to start saying thank you for doing this for the city, because that means less expense for the city. But unfortunately, we're in this mode here where we're charging a lot of money here to remove the snow on your sidewalk. But thanks for what you've done in the past in helping to maintain the sidewalk.
Further comments? If not, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Other questions of them? Others that wish to address the council on one of the three: tree trimming, litter, or snow removal? Just tell us which one when you come up, and we'll find it.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Murray. We own the property at 2401 West Madison, which is an apartment building. This has been a real interesting
Sorry,
year.
one moment, please. It's on page 5, snow removal, second item. Sorry about that.
That's okay. It's been an interesting evening listening to this. I received a bill on a property that I received a bill from a year ago on the same property that is as of yet not resolved. We spoke to, and I brought with him, as our maintenance man contacted Dave regarding this bill, because it was the first we knew that a complaint had even been filed. According to Dave at the time, he said that they left a note on the door. This apartment building, as you can see, has 4 exterior doors. If you're lucky to get inside, there's 24 more doors, and no note was found. According to Dave, he then called a phone number and left a message on it. The phone number that he called doesn't have a machine. It's a fire alarm system to a building we own on East Amadon, which is about 15 miles from that apartment building. Other than that, I was then told that, because normally they give us a courtesy phone call. They call us, and we go deal with it. As you can see from that, that is a blow-in snow. The story that I got from them was the only reason we did this was because the tenant called in and said it hadn't been removed all winter. Now, you can see from the edging that that sidewalk is cleared. It blew in. With all due respect to the ADA requirements, that is a subsidized property controlled by HUD. I have 2 residents in that building in wheelchairs who have my personal cell phone number. And if that snow is ever impassable for them, no matter when, they are to call me, and they do. That was my first defense to this until I get to listening to Dave explaining the laws that say I have 48 hours to clear that snow. According to the deal that I got here, this property was inspected on February 21st. They did a follow-up on the 22nd. They called the contractor on the 22nd, and he cleared the snow on the 22nd. To me, that's 24 hours. And all due respect to you, Kermit, this bill is for $631. I have invoices from 2 other snow removal companies I use. One, which is Lappy Concrete, who does snow removal using all forms of equipment, whether it's a skid loader or what. That to do sidewalks only on that property would be $135. I have one from Schoenhart Lawn Care, same property. He charges out $60 an hour. To do that property, sidewalks only, $127. So as you can tell, this is not a lot of sidewalk. When I spoke with Mr. Caldwell about this billing, Mr. Caldwell informed me that the city charges me exactly what the city is charged. They do not pad it or do anything else. We subcontract snow removal. And yes, we consider our workman's comp, our insurance, our expenses, and our gas. According to them, when I contacted them regarding them, I got the 5-man, 6-hour routine too. That snow could have been moved in a whole lot less time, let alone neither was I given the 48 hours notice. Therein, I don't know how I can impress upon you that that property is 85 to 89% elderly disabled. That is the first building our crews hit. If it blows in between and nobody tells me or my men are on another job, it might go 24 hours. It normally doesn't. But then on the other hand, this property, as I say, is still sitting with an issue coming from '07 where the city billed us, and I met with Mr. Caldwell. If Mr. Munson remembers, it was an upsetting evening then too, whereby the city was then going to refund me money because we paid the bill and they were going to refund it, which hasn't been done yet. So as much anxiety as the city feels with these things, you have got to learn to sympathize with the property owners here. Those handicap curb cuts, I have 2 of them on both ends of the Madison end of that deal. My men are out there and they will clean them off. The city comes through, they fill them back in. My men go out, they fill them back out. It blows back in, and it's a constant thing. But we did not receive the 24 hours. And as you can tell, you're right. These charges are massively excessive. And had I gotten the proper notice that normally I do get, we usually get a phone call from a very nice lady who says to me or Terry, I got a complaint on your sidewalks, you want to deal with it, and the men go out and they deal with it. But to call a fire alarm system and tell me you left a message? No, I'm not buying that one. And after talking to Mr. Caldwell, we had determined at that point, because I know who called the complaint in, and it's the same one that has called in several times. And the first instinct most people say is evict her, because she's a pain in the rear, and I can't do that, nor do I want to. It kind of defeats the purpose of the property. But as you can tell, I maintain those sidewalks, or they wouldn't have a rim this deep of pre-shoveled snow. And that's all I have.
Questions?
Larry's going to go back to the original screen, and you can see all of the complaints that have been lodged on this property. Can you go back to that, Larry? You've got to push the PC to get back to... These are all of the listings of complaints on this property, and as I stated before, with the code enforcement, you can start seeing a pattern on that. And I guess I don't mean to be disrespectful to Mr. Staggers on his comment on the sympathy towards the property owner, but I guess if I'm going to have some sympathy, it's going to be those individuals that have to use those sidewalks. I think it's a real tragedy if somebody has a disability and cannot get down to the corner to catch the bus and get to work. That's where my sympathy lies. I don't have any sympathy for the property owners. It snows in South Dakota. It's going to snow this year. It's going to snow next year. The notice can go out today for every year in the near future. It's going to snow in South Dakota. And we keep talking about this personal notification. As I went through, we've notified people in the paper 5 times. It gets to the point, are you going to start notifying people coming out of the rain? I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I have even more sympathy for this property owner now.
Pardon?
Because of the time frame. Notified on the 21st and it's done on the 22nd. What happened there?
I believe we actually did this as a second complaint. There was a first complaint on the property. And we had a light snow after that. So what we've done out of just good customer service, if it snows a light snow, again, we just deal with it as a second complaint. We do that on several properties, and if they're not done, then we'll act.
Yeah, but, okay, so as a courtesy, we're going to notify...
We usually give them another day.
Okay, so she's notified on the 21st, and then the work is done on the 22nd.
I would have to go back and look at the first complaint, but I think there was a complaint a couple days before that, and then it snowed again.
But we don't know. Is that right?
I'd have to double check on that for you.
Because I'm concerned that you said there was, and now we're not sure.
I would have to double check on that for you, Mr. Staggers.
So I guess at this point in time,
and
we're
on
only
this
aware of one complaint.
Okay, on this particular property, we did have several individuals call in and complain that they could not get down to the bus. I did, okay.
Other
Complaint
questions?
came in on the 19th.
Come address the, come up to the podium, please.
Shows the 19th, Mr. Staggers.
When did she get the complaint, though?
Just a
If you
minute.
look up the owner information on that, states Amadon Properties LLC. That's the fire alarm that they called. The bus doesn't even stop in front of this building. It is something I've been working on to get a bus stop in front of this building. So I'm hoping you can understand the frustration is Mr. Caldwell and I were fairly certain we are dealing with the same person calling in these complaints. And even if you go on I was never notified of a first complaint. So if he's going to call this blow in a second, and then he says it snowed, and then about 24 hours later it snowed again, you still don't have 48 hours between accumulation, even if you use that theory. But this is not a snowfall that is on that sidewalk. The pictures that they sent me show where the stairs are clean except for the corners where it blew in the sides. And so I'm just right now getting very frustrated with all of this, inaccuracy and falsehood that's coming out here. Because I can't appease him, and I can't appease my residents, and my residents pay me rent, so guess who I'm going to appease? And if my residents were happy, they're not out there falling down. And see, that's a blow-in.
Okay. Others that wish to address the council on litter, tree trimming, or snow removal? Name and address and then property,
It
please.
happens to be snow removal, Jamie Swanson, actually the husband. He's been married since 604 to 610 North Lewis,
Can you tell me your last name again, please?
Glasgow. Swanson is actually, it's my wife. We were married after
606
that.
606
So it's
North
Jamie
Lewis?
Swanson, 604 to 610 Lewis.
Page 7.
Thank
Page,
you.
page 7?
606 North Lewis.
That's what I got. 606 North Lewis here, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Well, the key thing, Well, we're property owners. We're really not looking for sympathy. We're looking for notification. We're never notified that we had an issue here. You know, we have Service Marv's snow removal there, and, you know, they go out, and it's 4 units there. So I'm trying to figure out if they didn't do their job, okay, like this is the first I'm seeing. If they didn't do their job, well, if I've got the proper notification, I can call Marv and say, hey, you guys got to get out there. Well, we are never notified. And so we later get this for sure afterwards, and 3508, and it's a notice given, per citizen complaint, notice given 2/19/08, follow-up 2/22/08, contractor notified to clear snow 2/22/08. Contract clear snow 2/22/08. Well, we're never notified, period. So then now I'm come tonight and I find that, okay, for investment properties, you leave the notification at the unit there. So the property owner is never notified?
We try to make a courtesy call on rental property, and on this one, we did make a phone call, 334-3838, would that be correct? Okay. Well, we do have a note here that we did talk to a lady who lived there. She can't shovel the snow. She's 7 months pregnant, very upset. Spoke with a Dorothy Furlan.
Okay, that was a 10 at 606.
Okay. She said they didn't own the property, would get in contact with the property owner. Are you Randy?
Yes.
Okay, I did talk to Randy. Called, was upset about not giving notice on March 10th, 08. He was going to talk to Van in Finance about the billing. This bill was $73.50. It was one of the more minor ones. However, the complaint did come in on the 19th, or the first inspection was on the 19th. The follow-up and cleaning was on the 22nd.
Quick question. You were saying someone notified me, or?
Well, we talked to a lady, and I don't know if that was your wife
No.
or not. I don't know.
Mayor and council, who he spoke with was with my tenant. And after this all happened, that's what has happened. It come from I believe, the mail lady had an issue getting to the unit, so she said something to the gal that lives there. So that's kind of where it came out, but we've never been contacted from, by mail or by phone, nor did my tenants ever call and say, hey, we have an issue over here with snow removal. And it was from my understanding that Marv's were there as well, so.
I guess if somebody has a better solution on notices, I mean, I think we do as good as we can on notice. We pull up the legals, and I guess my feeling is it the city's responsibility to go door to door and knock and give notice when it snows? If somebody has a better idea, I would certainly listen to it.
Can I ask about the phone call that supposedly went to the fire alarm system? What happened there?
Well, that's the number that we had. It was, my notes indicate that there was a message left. In fact, if you want to go back there, I'll read some information out there that I was not going to, and I certainly would be happy to give you some further information on that. Whether it's pertinent or not, but I think it's worth noting. I did have, I believe, one of Bonnie's maintenance men call me on this particular deal, very upset, and this is not common, but I do get a lot of this. My notes, a man called, very upset. He said the city doesn't know what the effing we're doing. He said this is effing BS, and he wasn't going to pay the effing bill. And at that time, I hung up.
And who was this man that called?
Identified himself as working for Murray Construction. And I guess with that, those are some of the comments we get on those individuals. I think it's important with the history of that, and of course we can be here and stand about coulda, shoulda, woulda. We do the best of our ability to enforce the ordinance.
But we don't know the name of this person.
Well, we're trying to finish this one with Swanson, and now we're back to Murray's. Give your name and address.
I am Chad. I live at 2501 South Lindale. I'm with Murray Construction. I am the one that talked to this man. And no, I did not use those words. In fact, if it all means anything, I guess. I actually sat in the same room with him, talked about the pricing of this stuff, and he basically told me what to bid, which was, anywhere between $45 and $60 an hour. So he's actually telling these guys what to bid at. So I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if he wants to start slinging stuff, I guess. I know I did not say those words. I just wanted to make the point of that. So that's all I have to say about that, I guess.
Thank you. Let's go back to yours and get that.
Say, the price $73.50 is no problem, and if had Marv's never been there and they needed to take care of it, was just going to fall back to them, as far as I'm concerned, because they should be there. We have a concern, but my concern is the notification. We've never notified, and then every time we have something like this, it kind of notice noters and all the city stuff or whatever, it goes to the mortgage company. So then it doesn't look so bad. It doesn't look too good for the property owner when this kind of thing happens. You know what I mean? And then we weren't notified. We weren't given an opportunity to be responsible.
Okay, Pat.
Dave, can you refresh me again? I think you said it earlier. What is the city's responsibility in the ordinance for notices?
Legally, the city's responsibility is to put one notice in the Argus Leader, or the paper of the city, notifying people of the ordinance, one time. That's all legally we have to do. We put notice in 5 times, plus everything else beyond that is all courtesy. The notices on the door, that's all courtesy. We do not have to do that. That's above and beyond. And there is other accesses. We scroll that on the snow alert. So we keep talking about these notices. I think we're hung up on that. Legally, one notice is all the city has to do. That's the ordinance.
Yeah, I from my standpoint here, it seems like the notice thing is the common theme, that it didn't get noticed, and I'm sorry, I don't understand that. It seems like if it snows, that's your notice, and if you're a property manager or you're a homeowner, it's your responsibility to get the snow off the sidewalk. And the fact that you may or may not have gotten notice 5 days after the event or whenever it was.
As a property owner and landowner, if you have someone in place that is going around taking care of that, you feel that you've done your job.
Absolutely.
You see what I mean? So then it seems like if you do get a notice here, then it should be going to the tax roll or whatever, you contact the person who's paying taxes on it, not the tenant.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So at that point, you have an opportunity to double back on your responsibility that you've already stepped out to be responsible for, which is hiring snow removal. You see what I mean?
Yeah, and I think I certainly agree with you. You might have a reason to go talk to the person you hired for the snow removal, but as far as the city having to continually give notice, I'm not sure I'm there with that.
Just another footnote, we had close to 1,400 sidewalk snow complaints. Out of that 1,400 sidewalk complaints, there were 206 that did not comply. We shoveled that many, and out of the 206, I think we're down to 68 or 69 that have not paid.
Vernon?
And on top of the notices, Dave, that you did that went above and beyond duty, I know because I had to do the story so many times. Whenever there's snow, it's in the media all over the place that you have 48 hours to clean it up. There's no excuse for not getting it cleaned up within 48 hours. There's plenty of notice. You're right. We can't go door to door, knock on people's houses to remind them to shovel their snow.
I think each case, one more time, then I'll go. Each case is kind of different, though, here. I've heard, this case here I have 4 units here. We're talking about 606. So what about 604, 608, and 610? You see? If my guys had never been there, then I should have a problem with each of those. I'm just...
Randy, you may have only been filed a complaint on that one property.
On the one
Just
unit
the one,
there?
right. And I would really just go after your maintenance guys and tell them to pay it. And,
I am. I wanted to actually come today to see how the notifications are really kind of going, you know what I mean? Because without notifying the property owner, we never know sometimes. And even though we know it's snow, you call the guys, hey, and activate your maintenance crew or whoever, so you're thinking that you've done your part of the responsibility, So, thank you.
Okay. Others that wish to address the council on litter, tree trimming, or snow removal? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we'll close it to council discussion or action, and we've got them all, they're all in item number 7, the snow and the litter and the tree trimming, and
Mayor, regarding the tree trimming section on page 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down, the last name on that one is Koosman, Koosman. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Because of an email I received today, I believe that the tree trimming still needs to be done, and in that particular case, I don't know how best to say it. I'm going to say for humanitarian reasons, overwhelming personal situations there and so forth. I would like to make a motion to pull that one out for tonight, and I would like that person to have until October 15th to get the trees trimmed, and I don't know what else to say right now.
would you want to defer that item until October 15th?
Yes, that would be great.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. D, on that particular one, the email that we had received was regarding a parking ticket fine, and this is a tree trimming. This was a different situation. I think that these people were a little bit confused about what they were getting.
I think they had 2. Did you see the email from the chief of staff later in the day on that?
Right.
Go ahead, Gene.
Just one thing I'd like to remind the council of. If you defer this past September 30th, it will not go on the rolls, on the assessment rolls. If it does go on after that, it could have to roll over for another year.
Okay, I would like to change that motion if I may.
Okay, it hasn't been seconded, so we won't.
Okay, I'd like to just dismiss that. I'd just like to dismiss that item
You want to dismiss that all total?
completely.
The motion is to dismiss the $150 on the Koosman assessment roll.
Yes.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Who's second? Motion been made and seconded to dismiss that item. Further discussion. All in favor of dismissing will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz? Staggers?
Yes.
All members present have voted 6 yes and 2 excused. That has been dismissed. Any further motions?
Mr. Mayor, move to approve item number 7.
Okay, motion to approve item 7. Is there a second?
Second, Costello.
Costello seconds. Further comments? Go ahead.
Yes, I have an amendment. I move that we delete the assessment against 240 West Madison Street and the
Second, no. That's on the
What
snow,
page,
right?
Kermit?
Snow, that's right, the snow
Okay,
one.
let me go there.
That's the $631.28 one.
Okay, Kermit, what page, please?
That's on 5, item number 2.
That's $631.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your motion is to dismiss that?
Yes.
Okay, that's the motion to dismiss. Is there a second? That motion dies for a lack of a second, so we're back to the main motion that's been made and seconded to approve item number 7.
I have another amendment.
Okay.
This amendment is also on page 5. It's item number 5. It's 613 South Conklin Avenue. It's Nathan and Adrienne Nowak, and it's dismissed $235.67.
Okay, that's your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second? That motion dies for lack of a second, so we're back to the main motion.
And then I have another amendment, which is also the snow one.
Pardon? Excuse me.
The snow one again. This is page 2, item number 5. 900 West 10th Street, Kenneth Halbritter, to dismiss $353.77.
Okay, we got the motion. Is there a second? That dies for lack of a second, so we're back to the main motion. It's been made and seconded to approve item number 7.
And then I have another amendment. This is the tree trimming one. And that is item number 1, 1121 North Kiwanis Avenue, Suleiman Ahmed, to dismiss $150.
Okay. That's your motion to dismiss the 150. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that one.
Okay, Jameson seconded that one. Further comments on that motion? Seeing
Well-
none. All in the favor?
Yeah, on this, I guess I would say on this one here, I mean, the picture that we saw of this, charging $150 for a few twigs that are just barely over on the sidewalk, when those twigs could have been eliminated maybe in 5 minutes, and charging somebody $150, that's excessive.
Yours is actually a substitute motion then.
I just wanted an amendment.
Okay, we'll amend it. Go ahead. All in favor of the motion to amend will vote yes. Those opposed, or dismiss it. To dismiss that item will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no.
We're voting on an amendment to dismiss the tree trimming charge.
Yep.
Okay. Council members Brown,
No.
Costello,
No.
Jameson,
Yes.
Knutson,
No.
Litz,
No.
Staggers.
Yes.
That motion fails, so we're back to the main motion to approve item number 7. Got a motion made.
And then
second.
I have another amendment. This is on the weed mowing. Page 8, the last item, 1604 East 18th Street, to dismiss $138.75.
Wait a minute.
Wait, what was that on?
No. Councilmember Staggers, we already approved that
Oh,
item.
sorry about that. Sorry.
Thank you.
So we're
Should
back.
have approved that.
We're back to the motion been made, seconded to approve item number 7. Further discussion.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I guess I'm very disturbed that we had some very good statements being made here by homeowners, and my colleagues on the council are rejected every one of these. I mean, I could understand maybe rejecting, some of them, but every one of them, we had some very, very good arguments. And also at the same time, we had some very disturbing revelations here about how the city is operating in regard to some of these citizens. I'm really, shocked by the rejection of every one of these amendments. And needless to say, because we had these people come and give some very good arguments as to why they shouldn't be assessed, I'm concerned there are other people on here that have equally good arguments, but for one reason or another have not been able to come tonight. So this is an easy vote against this.
Go ahead. Okay.
Well, I'd just like to say with, all due respect for my colleague, is that I totally disagree with his comments, is that, again, it's, I think, a good reminder that we up here put these ordinances on the books and that they are there to be enforced. I try to be a very reasonable person, and as you could tell from a couple of my motions tonight, I really try to just be as reasonable and as considerate as I possibly can, but I think that Councilor Costello may have said it best, or at least one of the best comments tonight, is that once it starts snowing in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, it's a warning to all of us that we need to find our shovels, and if we don't want to go out and shovel, we need to find someone to do it. And I realize, like, on the whole notice bit, I know there are a lot of people that don't get the Argus Leader, for instance, and so, I know that, and I know I myself never read legal notices, even though, again, all of that as far as notices, we, by state law and by city ordinance, that's ordinance we have in the book. So, the important notice is when it starts snowing is get the snow off the sidewalks before someone falls and gets hurt. And we had whatever the number was, hundreds and hundreds of calls last year, plus individual calls to us as counselors. So I am not shocked about anything that happened tonight.
It's inaccurate to say that we ignored all these. In fact, we dismissed several of them this evening. So just because the ones you made amendments for doesn't mean that we ignored all of them. We did dismiss several. 99% of the property owners in Sioux Falls obey these laws and pay attention to when it snows or when it needs to be mowed, and to dismiss a number of these just because people show up would be unfair to the 99% of the population that does obey these ordinances.
Well, you know, the way we operated tonight, why do we even have anybody coming here to appeal? You know, what we've been saying now is, hey, the ordinance says this, but in reality, when we actually heard some of the ordinances being read, it says may, the city may, they may, they may, they may. There is all kinds of leeway here. But we've decided tonight not to do this. We're going to be very, very rigid. And once again, I'm really happy that these people did come and explain their problem with the city. Unfortunately, I wish we had more people coming so we actually really know what's going on here.
We've got a motion been made and seconded to approve item number 7. There's no more further discussion. I'm sorry, sir. It's in the council's hands now. And so we've got the motion that's been made and seconded. Further comments from the council? Seeing none. All in favor of approving item 7 will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
All members present have voted. We've got 6 yes, or 5 yes, and 1 no, and 2 excused. So item 7 has been approved. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is a resolution vacating East 73rd Street from a point 910 feet west of the quarter line of Section 13150, then west 872.53 feet, as shown on Exhibit A.
Good evening, Chad Heavey with Engineering. This portion of East 73rd Street is unimproved and is east of Cliff Avenue and south of the University of Sioux Falls' athletic complex and the Sioux Falls Christian School. The petition was submitted by Eric Willitson. USF plans to install a soccer field in a portion of this location. The future 73rd Street will be south of its current location. If the right-of-way is vacated, a portion of the utility easements will be maintained and a portion will not be maintained. The petitioner has complied with our street vacation policy and is present tonight to answer any questions. Engineering recommends approval.
Questions of Chad on item number 8? Others that wish to address the council? Go ahead.
Who is the petitioner?
Good evening. Eric Willitson, Willitson Engineering here on behalf of the University of Sioux Falls. They are the owners of the property on both sides of the future 73rd Street. Be happy to answer any questions about exactly what the process or what the plan is here.
Questions of Eric? Not. Others that wish to address the council on item number 8?
Thank you.
Is there a
I move
motion
for approval of number 8.
You made a motion to approve?
Yeah, that's a
Knutson made a
motion, I'm
motion. Who
sorry.
seconded?
Second, Costello.
Costello seconded it.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to excuse myself.
It'll be noted that Councilmember Staggers will be excused from this vote, so we've got a motion been made, seconded to approve item number 8. Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, no. Oh, we do. That's right. You know, we're going to have to, if we get a substitute motion to defer this until September 15th.
That is my motion, Mayor.
Substitute motion to defer until September 15th, we need, because we do need 6 votes. Thank you very much, Deborah. We need 6 votes, so we got a motion to defer until September 15th. Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconds that motion. So all in favor of the deferral until September 15th will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes. All members present have voted. Item number 8 has been deferred until September 15th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Let's.
Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
All in favor, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown. Yes. Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
We stand adjourned. Thanks, Deborah.